about like the delicacy of the history of construction
Oh
or
yeah, or like the taking down of a city and rebuilding a new city,
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like building a new highway and the homes that, you know, eminent domain. It could be a story about eminent domain, how people lose their homes
Which
for
is
the new freeway.
yeah, all the kids really need to learn about imminent domain.
That's right. That's right.
You gotta all those kids that are like, oh, this.
It's time for Gab and Doodle.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everybody! Welcome to Gab and Doodle, the first Gab and Doodle of 2026. That's right, 2026. I'm your host, Mark Hoffman of Studio Hoffmann fame. Not fame, but still. Here's the deal. We're going to do a Gab and Doodle tonight. Our guest is going to be Christopher Thornock, who worked on this lovely book called Brave Old Blue. We're going to talk to him and get into it. But tonight, as a reminder, you can ask us anything in the comments. I'm going to put that in here while I chat. And then I post stuff to YouTube, and then stuff is here on Instagram. Or if you're watching on YouTube, then go to Instagram, and it's all at Studio Hoffmann. You can see it at the top right up there. Let me finish typing this in. I don't know why. I wish I should just have this preloaded as a copy and paste and done. But I don't. And so, let's go pin that. So tonight, we're going to have on Christopher Thornock. And if you don't know Christopher Thornock's work, you need to go look at it because it is absolutely gorgeous. I mentioned in the ad that one of the things he does is he does a really subtle and soft, elegant sort of look to his work. It's primarily pencil and things of the sort that gets colored and whatnot, but he has a real sort of delicate touch to all of his work. It's really, really nice that shows up. And so this book is quite lovely across the board. It's got this like sort of, I don't know, it's not sepia tone, but it's got this like tone to it, a warm sort of like cast across it that really sort of sells a certain era, a certain time frame, or sort of a memory aspect that's in there. So if you don't get to see it well here, you need to go out and buy this book, Brave Old Blue, but written by Colleen Musk. I believe that's how you say it, and then illustrated by Christopher Thornock. So tonight I'm going to ask Christopher to choose which piece I'm doing. I don't know which one I'm going to do. We'll let him make that call. Let me let our guest in here real quick. I believe, let me just add, oh, you know what I should do? I should tilt it to me and put my face on screen. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to 2026. It's the first of the month. Let me get our guest in here real quick. Oh, there he is. To Christopher. We got a join. Hello.
Hola.
Wait, do you speak Spanish?
Un poquito.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not prepared. That was not.
No, no, we'll do it in English.
Yeah, I can get by a little bit here and there, but not enough to hold a conversation. Well, welcome. We've been fans of yours for a long time.
Oh, I appreciate it.
We've been. I say we, meaning my wife and me, and family adjacent. In fact, my father-in-law at one point mentioned that he bought Brave Old Blue at our local bookstore. We're like, oh, Christopher, that's cool.
Sweet.
So, and he didn't know who you were, but he bought your book because he loved your book, and he
Thank
loves
you.
this. And so, like, it was a nice little connection that was made there. But thank you for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. New year, great way to start it off.
How's 2026 so far?
Well, I slept in, so that's good, and it's raining. We've had the warmest winter since I can remember, like no snow, nothing. So, and that's very unusual for where we are. So
you're in like Utah or something, right?
Yeah. Supposedly we have the greatest snow on earth, but not this year. So
where in Utah are you?
Just north of Salt Lake City.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I think of it as isn't the big film festival in Utah?
That's in Park City. Yeah, it used to be. I think it moved to Colorado this year due to probably political reasons, but
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sundance Film Festival
Yeah.
with started by Robert Redford. Yep.
Yeah. So I think of like snow because of that. And so
Yeah,
when I
yeah,
think Utah, it's
absolutely.
either like burning hot or it's, snowing. It's one of the two.
Yep. Yep.
Um, so again, thank you for joining us tonight. We're excited to have you on. And I know that there are folks out there that don't know who you are, and shame on them. But can you give a quick
Sorry.
little synopsis
Sure.
of you and your, not necessarily your full history, but just a little touch of it?
Sure. Sure. So I'm actually pretty new to Kidlit. I started off college way back in the 90s. Went to school for 3 years at Brigham Young University, then dropped out and worked for a year and ended up at Art Center College of Design in Pasadena.
Yeah.
I did illustration and fine art there, and I graduated with a fine art degree. Moved back to Utah, have done all sorts of jobs because I was more of a studio painter. Um, and then it's probably been 10 or 15 years ago. I got my graduate degree 10 years ago. Got my graduate degree, started teaching just as like a visiting professor. And I
Yeah.
was hired to do illustration. And I was doing gallery work, and I thought, I should probably get back into illustration. So I did, and I got a rep, and did that for a while. And then when I started school years and years ago, I did it with the intention of becoming a children's book illustrator, but the road was windy and ended
Yeah.
up doing other
Yeah.
things. And so I thought maybe I should go back and try that because I'm now a full-time professor, and longer deadlines made more sense for my day job.
Gotcha.
And I thought if I can work for a year, plus I love children's books. I mean, I was buying up children's books. My wife and I, when we were first married, I would get them for Christmas gifts and things. So I thought, well, let's go back and let's do that. And so I left the agency that I was with, and started looking for a literary agent. I don't know if you know Giuseppe Castellano over at the
Yep.
illustration department podcast. So I did like a mentorship with them just to kind of revamp my portfolio and to get some insight. And he was like, Chris, you really need to get a literary agent, not an
Yeah.
illustration agent. So that's what I did. I dropped my my agency and then just went out, doing what most illustrators have to do, sending emails and hoping that somebody noticed, and ended up weirdly through Twitter getting Lori Steele
Yep.
at
Still work.
Steelworks.
Yep.
She saw my work. Debbie Ridpath Ojai does this thing she now does that, I think, on Blue Sky. But
Yeah.
she would say, hey, if you're unagented, post your work. So that, what the heck, I'm getting ghosted, or I'm getting, rejections left and right.
Yeah.
Let me try it. And it worked out. Like it was one of those fortuitous things. So now I'm with Lori and Steelworks Literary. We did that book with Colleen and with Sleeping Bear.
Now there's
And then
4 more lined up, right?
yeah. Now I'm really busy. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've got a book coming out in the summer with Holiday House and Neil Porter Books at the end of the summer, and then I'm working on one right now with Ann Schwartz Books, and then I've got a couple lined up at Penguin. So
It's not even
at
like
Random House, Random House
Yeah.
House Studio.
but still just the like the speed at which it sort of came on after
Yeah, which
is kind of nutty, especially in the environment of the kidlit industry right now, where it's sort of like tumultuous.
I know, and I see people writing about the woes, and I'm like, I'm really lucky. It's just, this
You're not-
happens.
You're
You
not
know what I
lucky.
mean?
You're not
Well,
lucky.
it's right place, right time,
Yeah.
being prepared. Yeah.
It's not like you're turning out trash and someone goes, oh, well, just try on this guy. Like the
Well, thank
quality
you.
of the work
Yeah.
and like the beauty of it is totally captivating, and there's a reason why you are going to have plenty of success
Well,
going
let's hope
forward.
so. Yeah.
Um, one of the things that I have to ask this question before I forget. So
Yeah.
when you got hired to teach and you taught illustration,
Yeah.
were you applying for an illustration class?
So the university that had hired me just as a like visiting professor, I had been a student there and had kept in contact with the faculty, and so they were like they had a person retire, and so they just needed a warm body, and they were utilizing sort of local people. And so they were like, Chris, do you want to come and do this? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. That would be fun. I love working with students, and I've been teaching adjunct for like 10 years. So I just kind of moved in and started teaching, and it's nice to be a visiting professor because you don't have anything but teaching. You've got a heavier teaching load, but you
Yeah.
don't have to do office work or any of
Yeah.
that stuff. So it was great. It was a great,
I didn't know if you
like,
walked in on day one and they go, "Hey,
oh,
guess what? You're teaching illustration course." And you're like, "Well, okay, all my
no,
oil paints. Let me put those away."
yeah, no. And it was funny because I I would have students getting work. Like one of my students got work with Sujin Bazzelli at Plan Sponsor, and I was just like, "Oh dang, okay, my students are way outperforming me. I've gotta, I better get serious about it." So,
For people that don't know, Plan Sponsor, uh, like I always think of it as like top tier editorial. Like Susan
yeah,
Bazzelli has some of the biggest names in editorial
yeah.
stuff, and it's a magazine I never want to read. I don't
Nope,
know about
nope,
you. It's
no.
all about like financial planning,
Yeah,
but like,
it's like the most boring or most challenging, I think, like subject matter to illustrate.
yeah,
And she picks top tier, yeah, top tier
yeah.
talent. So,
So, anyways, so tonight, I need to find out a couple things from you,
yeah,
which is material, i.e., what you're
okay,
using, if there's brands,
okay,
and then we need to find out what you're actually working on.
okay. Like working on like tonight, working on,
Yeah, yeah.
or
What are you
okay.
gonna like? Is it just fun? Is it something for a project? Do you have it sketched out already? Is it just doodling?
I'm gonna kind of come in cold. We'll
Okay.
go backwards. I'm gonna come in cold. I am gonna keep it kind of low key because I do go through like steps, of refinement for stuff to look the way it does in a book. And so I'm going to be more draw centric tonight.
Okay.
So this is just kind of I'm going at it cold tonight. I've just got a pad of white paper, and tonight I'm going to work in graphite. And if I get kind of to the point where I'm kind of sick of this drawing, I might photograph it and then finish it off in Procreate, or I could just switch materials and start working with colored pencil and things
When
like that.
when you I mean your stuff, and I was going to ask this later, but I'm going to ask you now. I'm assuming by saying that you're just going to sort of draw that your stuff takes some time to do, just because of
It,
the refinement of the graphite and all those things.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Although I'm pretty quick, but if I keep myself to just like simple materials, then I don't have to be setting things up and taking things down and
Okay. Okay.
wiping down palettes and stuff like that. And I am more of a draw centric kind of illustrator.
Yeah.
Um, I did fine art painting and gallery painting for years, and I did work in oil, and I walked out to my studio because I now work in my home in a sort of bedroom office. Um, but I walked out to my studio earlier today, and I'm looking at my easel and my oil paints and my paintbrushes and going, oh, I haven't been here for a year because I've been working on children's books, which is fine.
Wait,
Um,
your studio at your house somewhere, like a outside?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
So I built when my kids were little. There
You're
was
not
no
paying
room.
rent, is what I'm wondering.
Yeah, there was no room in
Okay,
the
gotcha.
house. We've got a small home, so I built kind of a 16 by 20 shed, sort of an
Yeah,
outbuilding that I just ran electricity to and could keep warm in the winter and run an AC in the summer, and that's where I worked.
gotcha.
So, yeah,
Um, and then the other question I have for you is graphite wise.
yeah.
Are you one of those people that like has to have the right brand and the
Oof.
like what are we?
Okay. Well, okay. So here is my This
Your
is
kit.
so embarrassing because it's like packed to the brim. I can't
Yeah.
and I just sort of grab bag, but I do love. I am a sucker right now. I I wrote a
Oh,
Substack about these things. These are Lyra graphite sticks.
yeah.
Yeah, and they come in like everything from HB to 9B. They're super soft. I love working with these because it one of the challenges I find is that I get too fiddly, and so this kind of helps me stay loose right at the beginning, and it fills lots of space quickly. So yeah, the Lyra graphite sticks are really great. I also am kind of a sucker for the woodless pencils, the just graphite pencils that you can sharpen.
Yep.
And this one's in a pencil holder because it,
I don't even know. I have 'em- I don't even know what brand I use, but I use
yeah,
basic. Like,
yeah,
why
yeah,
have the wood? It just takes up space.
right, right, and yeah, and I just keep sharpening and sharpening.
Yeah.
I love these Oto pencils. They're just like a point two. They're like a drafting pencil that
Yeah.
you can just advance, and you get a little sharpener, or sometimes you pull the eraser out and you can sharpen in the end. I like using these. Again, it keeps my fingers clean. So I'm a sucker for those. And of course, those Lyra also make, and these are really great. These are water soluble graphite.
Mm-hmm. I know the
So you
one.
can draw and then turn them into watercolors. And it just, keeps, and they're sort of erasable. So I love these.
Do you end up
And then,
walking out of the studio with like smudges
yeah,
on
well,
yourself
my
quite often?
hand,
Or?
I'm left-handed, so this
Oh
hand is
no!
always like silver, with the
You picked a
graphite.
material that smudges
I know, I
easily
know.
if you're left-handed.
Paper towels and
Bad.
slip
Yeah.
sheets.
Bad
I,
choice.
I love the black wings. If everybody loves these, the Palominos and everything. Black wing pencils are really smooth. And then I have like a million just you know
Mechanical.
mechanical pencils at different sizes, but point 0.9 is the size I like because I don't break the lead as much.
Yep. Yep. It's
And
funny
then
that it's good to see for anybody that's watching that's like graphite is graphite. Like I just grab whatever because I'm not a graphite artist. And so I just use what's here basically to like map stuff out and then
yeah,
go through the materials. But for those that like really care about the graphite, that there's so many different variables out there that's not as simple as just like, oh, I really like a 2B pencil. Like, well, a 2B,
yeah,
what brand? Uh,
yeah.
like, is it
Well,
is it something that's easily sharpened? Is it something you have to sharpen by hand? Is it something that like all sorts of variables? Um, so
yeah.
tonight, before we get started, I have one. Well, I have the normal things that I throw in here. If the
Uh-huh.
internet becomes a problem, we'll just I have to stop it and upload, and then we'll jump back on. But I don't know if
Okay.
that's a problem.
Okay.
Two, if you need to leave at any point, you
Okay.
just holler. I won't be offended of any sort. And then the third one is I have two sketches, and I need you to pick which one I'm doing tonight.
All right. All right. Let's take a look.
And so it is the year of the horse, apparently. That's
Okay.
the year.
Hey,
So
perfect. Perfect.
I drew a horse image of a little circus guy running around
Oh, yes.
on a horse.
Okay. Okay.
Or this is a sketch I did before I found out it was the year of the horse. And it's kids exploring. Like I've been doing mock covers for a little bit, and I decided I want to do some like educational, instructional kind of odds and ends. And so
Oh
this
my
is about
gosh.
what's inside a arm/hand.
Yes. Oh
And
my gosh.
you
Well,
can choose.
I gotta say, because I was introduced with my horse book, I want to see you draw a horse.
Okay, horse it is.
So yeah, I'm gonna make you draw a horse.
All right.
They're second to drawing hands and like ears. I think they're one of the
Horses.
hardest things to draw.
It's horses. This is the first time I'm trying to draw something that's maybe not quite profile.
Hmm.
It's like, I don't know if you have the same problem, but fish and horses are in that same ballpark for me, where like drawing straight on is really awkward.
Yeah.
And the horse needs the length of the body, otherwise it's just sort of
Yeah.
neck and some legs.
Yeah.
And I may alter this one a little bit, but okay, the decision has been made. We're
Yeah.
ready.
That's great.
Okay, so what we need to do is we need to switch to our downshoots, and then we just start
Okay.
talking. Topics can go wherever. I have a feed up that's got about a 15-second delay, so I can see that and watch for questions as people jump in. But
Perfect.
otherwise, switch to your downshoot, and we'll get going.
Okay, I'm going to rotate. I've got my little rig here. So
I will do the same, and I just, when you get it there, as long as your hands are coming in from the bottom of the screen, then we're
let's
good.
see. Oh, I need to probably, let me see. This is always the thing, right? I've got to flip it upside. Oh, no, I do this. There we go.
That looks correct. Yeah, there you go. You
Okay.
can see the top of the paper.
All right.
So, I normally start out, as long as you're okay chatting already, I normally start out with some questions that are pretty basic in the sense of sort of give us a little history of, not necessarily like you went to school, you did those kind of like that era, but going back to like little kid version. And obviously you had an affinity for kids books with you and your wife, but
Oh, yeah.
was that something that you like grew up with? Was a lot of books? Was that something that
Yeah.
you grew up with a lot of art because of the painting side?
Yeah. No, my mom bought lots of children's books. So I, grew up with Sandak books, and I grew up with like the Aesop's Fables books by Alison Martin Provenson. And so there were lots of children's books in the house, which was, really, really good. And then I think sometime when I was in like junior high, we were living in a small town in Arizona. My dad worked in mining. He was a mechanical engineer. And we would go to the library a lot. And so I just remember going to the public library, and, I've got two younger siblings, and we would check lots of books out and take them back to our house. And I just remember checking out a book. It was the Andrew Wyeth book, Wyeth at Kerner's. And it's like one of those moments where you're like, oh, people, like you take art in high school or in grade school or junior high, or you might have like, the timeout, during the week where you get to go do your art, unit. But that was when I was like, oh, people actually do this and make paintings. And I don't know why that didn't like connect with me, before then. And then later, when I was in high school, I had a neighbor who was a graphic designer, and he came over to our house. He worked at a company that did packaging, and I think it was mainly like apple boxes and fruit boxes, oranges, apples,
Interesting.
pears. And he was like, hey, I know you like art. I've got, my office is clean. We're cleaning out. I have all these magazines, art magazines. Do you want them? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So he brought me 2 apple boxes full of Communication Arts magazine.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
And
it's not just art, but it was specifically
yeah,
like
it was
communication
commercial
art
art stuff.
stuff.
Yeah, it's Communication Arts, and it was print magazine, and there might have even been like step-by-step graphics. But we, I took them, went through them, and discovered illustration. And you don't really know that that's a career option. At least, back when I was younger, it might be different nowadays, but I was like, oh my gosh, like who's this guy, Bart Forbes, or Bernie Fuchs, or
Yeah.
I fell in love with Alan Kober's work. Like
What age was this again that you were?
so I was like 16, 17.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just was like just blown away. But Brad Holland's work, he was big, at that point. And he was, along with the books, you get the annuals, and the illustration annuals were just like so cool that I thought, oh, I want to know more about this. And so I ended up getting, we did a high school all-state show, and I got a half tuition scholarship, and I declared that I wanted to be an illustration major. And they had a small program at BYU where I was headed off to. And yeah, that kind of started my trajectory.
Wait a second. BYU had a small program. Don't they have a fairly hefty program now?
They do, but this was okay. So I graduated high school in '87, so this was
Okay.
a long
Yeah.
time ago. And they had a good program back then. I mean, I think back to my classmates, many of whom are, from that group that I was with at that time are working professionals.
Yeah. It's
Like,
one of those, it's one of those schools that I think of, like, a lot of people don't think of it immediately for illustration unless you're in the illustration world, then you
yeah,
know about it. But it's not like people go like, oh, BYU, that's
yeah,
the illustration school, but it has so many people that have come out of that school.
yeah. Bob Barrett, who was one of the guy who gave me a scholarship. I think he won from the Society of Illustrators one year, like illustration educator of the year, or he won some lifetime achievement thing
Yeah.
way back when. And very strong program. I went to school with, like, one of my classmates was Brett Elquist,
Oh yeah.
who's done tons of the unfortunate series of unfortunate events, and he's done really great book about pirates. And I think there's a book this year. um it's like a middle grade reader. Is it about the Mona Lisa? It's like a whodunit.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, Brett was a classmate of mine at BYU. But I had this kind of weird thing happen where I was sitting in class one day, and as we were getting a critique, or maybe we were watching the faculty member do a demo, and he denies it because I've talked to him about this later, but he said, if I was really serious about this, I'd go to an art school, which is funny because we had so many, good students, go on and
Yeah.
do some really great work. But and maybe I'm misremembering it, but I was like, oh, really? Like, what schools? And so he named off, oh, you could go to Rhode Island School of Design, or you could go to Pratt, or you could go to Parsons, or you could go to Art Center, or you could go to Otis, or you could go to, like, he was Cal Arts. And I thought, oh, so I went home and convinced my wife I needed to quit school and save up so that we could move to LA. And so I quit for a year, did t-shirts, and then went off to LA and studied illustration and fine art at Art
But
Center.
wait a second. That was the teacher
Yeah.
at school said, if you're serious
crazy?
about this, don't stay here, go somewhere else.
Yeah. And I think at the time, I think it was, Provo is different than, LA County. Utah County is different than LA County. So, when you go to, when I went to Art Center, they were just, I'm trying to remember who was teaching. Matt Mahurin was teaching illustration. And
Yeah. You had access to things that you didn't potentially
oh
get
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't a slight at sort of
No.
that school. It was just hey, you're going to get more out of this other
Yep.
situation.
Yep.
Okay. That makes more sense in my mind. I was like, man, I don't know if the dean found out a faculty member was not happy about it, I would think. But
Yeah. So.
and then now obviously you ended up doing painting.
Yeah.
And sort of went that route. But was that something that, like, okay, so let me ask it this way. When I think of illustration, I think of illustration as sort of a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
On one end is sort of the designer who, is maybe the more like cartoony version, and potentially more about shape language and color and things of the sort. And then I think of the other side being more of the, like, painter version. And that's the, like, light and shadow and rendering and that side of it. And not to say they don't cross over and there isn't, like, you have to pick, but did you lean more towards the sort of, like, painterly side at the time? Were you a painter that was an illustrator, or were you an illustrator that was a painter?
Oh, that's a great question. I jokingly refer to myself as like an artistic schizophrenic. Like I love everything creative. And when I would take a class or I would see somebody's work, I would be like, I want to know how they did that, and
Yeah.
I want to try that. And so, you know, I was terrible at painting, and so that just, out of stubbornness, I wanted to learn how to oil paint because it is so, it's such a long like learning curve, but I wanted to do it. And then but I loved like the whimsy of making kind of like designerly stuff. I mean, we had to take graphic design classes, and my intro to typography teacher said, Chris, you should really consider being a graphic designer. And her pitch to me was, you'll make more money, you'll have a, you'll have a and you could be the person that hires the illustrators, and you could always illustrate if you wanted to. And I thought, I was like, what? How dare you? In my head, I'm like, no, no, I'm committed to being this artist. And so my work has always sort of battled that, like, should I be the painter or should I be the designer,
The illustrator, yeah, whatever.
yeah. And so I feel like I'm more of the painterly side, at least that I feel like that it manifests in my work more that way. Although, I love to keep sketchbooks, and that's where I, try all these ridiculous different, approaches to maybe loosen up, and maybe be a little bit more art, more designerly in my approach. Because I love, people that can sit down. Nate Williams was a local guy. He doesn't live local anymore, but I remember discovering Nate Williams' work and just kind of being blown away that he could do such a graphically oriented work. Or Leo Espinoza lives locally.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's out there in Utah.
Yeah, and his work, I just sit down and I'm like, oh, they're just so elegant and just really designed beautifully. And I want to make work like that, but then I'm thinking like, what? Well, why? You've got a thing that you're doing, so maybe
Well,
focus on
it's
that.
I mean, the idea of like evolving as time goes on. It's the reason why I asked that question is just that, you know, especially for someone who went through a specific program that, like a painting program is going to approach painting or image making very differently
Yeah.
than a illustration program. It doesn't mean there isn't overlap, but the thought process that's involved oftentimes is
Oh
very
yeah.
different. And as you probably know, painting programs in colleges are very different in how they approach sort of realism or
Oh yeah.
technique in a way than
Yeah.
illustration
Yeah.
programs. And not to say one's better than the other, but there's a different approach, and
It's a
it
different.
comes
Yep.
from either like client based or personal based or whatever.
Mhm.
And so that the fact that you lived on that sort of threshold, that line between the two, is an interesting.
Yeah. I had to read all the. I had to read all of the. The sort of like. What am I trying to say? Like the. All the art theory stuff. I had to
Yeah.
read Foucault, and I had to read Heidegger, and I had to read, we were, learning about all of that stuff. And I found it interesting. And, I discovered, oh, I think a lot of art is, a lot of the fine art, it didn't matter if you painted well, like in a technical sense, it was more about the sort of poetic or the sort of drive to make work that was relevant and all of that. But it wasn't necessarily like what you're saying. It isn't a technical exercise where this is how you mix on your palette, and that, like, the classes didn't do that. They would give you challenges that didn't have anything to do with technical things. It was more about your ideas. And so I was it's just I was a bit of a outsider in my class, in my fine art classes at Art Center, but I was, right along with all my classmates in
Yeah.
illustration. But then in there, I was always like, why aren't people thinking more about the work they make?
Yeah. That's
From this standpoint, it was always like, oh, really? Another one of these, or oh, comic books. Like I used to roll my eyes at comic books until I discovered like Daniel Klaus, and then I was like, okay, here, this is what we're talking about, like
yeah.
thinking
Yeah.
comics and stuff like that. But
That's funny. The aspect of like looking at illustrators and this is me teaching an illustration. Oftentimes there is a style over substance
hmm
aspect that can show up.
hmm
And the idea of coming into it with like, you can't give illustrators some assignments because their brain just doesn't work the same way as some fine art students, in the sense of like,
yeah.
we had a faculty member this semester. It reminded me of my freshman year when I was in art school, but gave an assignment to the students where they had to take a piece of paper and do something with it and don't tell the class what they did. And that was their piece of paper. And so like when we were reviewing the work at the end of the semester, there was just a sheet of paper on the table. And I thought it was just a piece of paper that was like, used to cover up or to make sure that work didn't get damaged on the walk over from the dorm. And
Mm.
that was their piece. And people had danced on it and done all this stuff. And like when you look at it and you go like, oh, there's a shoe print on it, and it makes sense. But you give
Yeah.
that to an illustrator, like take a piece of paper, do something to it, and don't tell anybody. And they go like, what are we
Yeah.
doing? But you can also
Yeah.
go to a fine artist and go, hey, we need you to make work, and here's the parameters, figure it out. And they go, I don't know what you're asking me. Like, what am I supposed to do? And there's a mindset difference, and that sort of helps define who you are and where you fit within the sort of
hmm
the industries of sorts. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
are you
Absolutely.
do you, when you approach your illustration work now, do you approach it with a more of a fine art sort of inkling, in the sense like, are you coming at it trying to like say, what does it mean? Sort of how does it fit within the historical context of art making in general, or are you
Mm.
approaching it more on sort of the like designer, does this look cute, will kids accept it, kind of like, how deep are you
I
going into your image making, basically, is the question.
Yeah, no, I am stuck. Um, I love sort of historical art references and one of the things that Lori mentioned to me, my agent, um when we connected, she's like, your work feels like work of an older era.
Yeah.
And I've had art directors and editors say that they're like, we love this because and I don't know if it's just the nature of the industry is cyclical, and I understand that, but I loved as a kid. I mean, one of my early children's books was The Garden of Abdul Ghazazi by Chris Van Allsburg. It's
Okay.
like one of
Yep.
his early children's books. And I just remember like looking at it and thinking like, this is art. Like this isn't, there's, I it's not meant to like cast dispersions on, different kinds of illustrators, but there was like this weird timeless quality about his work. Um, that I was like, oh, I want to do work like that. So when I'm looking at illustrators, I'm always looking at those older. I mean, I love the contemporary people, and I'm always sort of jealous. But I look at Garth Williams, the Little House on
Mm-hmm.
the Prairie guy, and I look at Robert Lawson, and I look at these illustrators, and I'm like, oh, see, I love, this older stuff. It's like 19, and maybe it's, kind of attached to around the time I was born, or, just before. Um, I had this really great story. It was like a Brothers Grimm collection that Marie Sendak had illustrated. And I have the two book set. and I would just pour over those, and they're like beautiful. They look like engravings. They're his pen and ink drawings, but it was like high art as opposed to, maybe maybe some of the other children's books that I'd seen. And I love those too, but I would look at those and go, oh, this feels like classical, So yeah, I think I approach my work with this feeling that I want it to sort of be timeless and not too much of the moment. I worry about working digitally sometimes because of that, and I want to make my digital work look like it's traditional work because I love the texture and the feel of those older illustrators.
I'm going to make a weird statement here and follow me down this journey.
Okay.
You make work. It's going to sound so weird how I put this. You make work that looks like it stinks. And what I mean by that, so hold on a second. The work that you make reminds me of going to like vintage bookstores.
Yes.
And that idea of like those, you're looking through some like old musty like 1920s book, and you open up and you're like, look at how beautiful this illustration is, and it comes with that like smell of old book.
Like old
and I know
paper.
I said it in a weird way, but that's the first thing that came to mind when you started talking originally. I was like,
so
you make work
funny.
that stinks.
Yep. I try to like, I don't want to copy it necessarily. I want to like do things to it that are new and fresh, I hope, using technology that's available to me now. But I look at I got on a kick. I'm a sucker for Pinterest. I tell my students, if you don't have a Pinterest account, you're a fool. And you just if you're being inundated by AI, just there's a switch you can flip so that you don't see all that work. And but I find like the most beautiful and interesting old, like Eastern European and like Russian illustration that's all done in like watercolor and charcoal pencils, and they're amazing. And I just like look at that stuff and go, yes, this is like the time period. It kind of feels like a Tarkovsky film if you've ever watched any.
Yep.
No, and that's what I like.
It's not like this is going to sound bad how I put this too. It's not putting anybody down, but I like to look at work that is not the big publishers that are these weird sort of like European or like South American publishers or things of the sort. There is some vibe to it that's a little different, that out of left field, that you just don't get if you walk into a Barnes and Noble or you walk into whatever those locations are. And then my wife and I, one of the things we do like to do is go to an antique fair, and if there's sections of like golden books, we find the weird ones that like probably are not the top tier. Like most people know like Tiny Little Puppy or whatever that is, and all those ones, but there's so many of them that are just absolutely strange. Or there's I forget what the competing company was that was there for a while that was trying to sort of fight for that market, that was same size books, didn't have the golden line to it, but and like some of them are just so great and lost to time, and like you got to go find those little nuggets. But as I said, they come with the chance that they have some mold in them. They come with the chance that they're a little I don't want to say, I'm not behind that, but they have a antique flair to them in a play. So no,
in fact, but we have a local children's or a local bookshop, and I've got to find this book because it's exactly maybe what you're talking about. Oh dang, this is always bad. I should like pull things out, but you never know what a conversation is going to bring out. But I got a book. Sorry, I'm not drawing. I'm looking for the stupid
That's
book.
fine. Yeah.
Behind me.
Okay.
That I was like, oh my gosh. And, it just opens me up to like, why haven't I heard of this illustrator? And where did this come from? And then I go down a rabbit hole. Well, this one's amazing. So this is Scott Odell. This is a Lind Ward book, but it's the treasure of Topo e Bampo, and like these illustrations are like, I'm like, yes. And it's this two color. It's a
Yes.
black with one spot color.
Yeah, that was like the only way to produce stuff back in the time for any sort of
Yeah,
copy. Yeah.
yeah.
There's
And I
quite
just
there's quite a few books that we have that where it's like it's generally like black and red, or it's black and like
mhm.
yellow,
light
or
light
it's
blue.
yeah. Yeah, just
There's
not super fancy colors of any sort. They're
right,
never fluorescent or anything of the sort, but just
right,
enough.
right.
That looks the color on that yellow, that sort of like mustardy yellow is so good.
Yeah, now I've got to find the other one because it's like a girl and her cat, and they like live near the ocean. Oh, here it is. So this is Evelyn Ness, but it's Sam Bangs and Moonshine, and this is like I think a four. But this book, same thing, and it does stink. I mean, the binding is all torn out, and
Yep.
some kids
Yep.
drawn in it. But like, I look at this stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and it, maybe it's got that timeless quality, or maybe it's just so antique that I'm, but I think it's just good work.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like,
You know?
it's what's impressive about when you find one of those books, especially the ones that has just like black and the spot color, so it's relatively monochromatic sort of treatment, is the if you find the right one, it doesn't matter that it's not full color. It doesn't matter that it's that there's pages that are just text for a while, that they're just so beautifully produced.
Right.
It's the hard part is finding ones that are still intact or are
Yeah.
not falling apart in some
And
horrible way. But
they didn't use too much Scotch tape. The Scotch tape just like
oh yeah,
ruins books.
the amount of books that we have that are like old library books that have some little bit of something stuck to it. Like you have to look past that sometimes. But
Yeah, scratch on it and say, what is this?
Yeah.
It smells like gum.
Is there now? Obviously, like you like that older work, but is that how do you? Because I guess the challenge that I'm wondering about is we're in an industry that is always trying to like, how do we make it new? How do we make it fresh? What's the new thing?
Yeah.
And obviously, publishers are not going to look at that and go, you know what? I see the next how do I put this? I look at it and go. I personally look at it and go like it's amazing, but a publisher might look at it and go, it looks dated or it looks,
Yeah.
whatever. How do you navigate those waters then? Because you do a very good job of it, but you have to make decisions. And
Well, I think there's certain kinds of books that I'm going to get, and certain kinds of books I'll never get. Do you know what I mean? I doubt, unless I really push myself, I doubt I'm going to get a book about dump trucks.
yeah, okay. Do you want to do a book about dump trucks?
Oh, vehicles. I do not draw vehicles, and I thought that would be so much fun to like figure it out. How to draw dump trucks or how to draw helicopters or but the manuscripts that I have been offered, that I've read through, or that are or even the ones that I've rejected, are kind of this they kind of have this soft lyrical, maybe I don't know, there's kind of an interesting tonality to the books that
Yeah.
and I think cool, maybe that'll be my spot, in this sort of world. And I do love like illustrators like the Fan Brothers, like I feel like that the work that they're doing, in a lot of ways, could sort of overlap, or I feel a kinship with the work that they make, if that makes sense.
I can see it. Yeah, there's here's the way that you mentioned that idea of seeing what was it, the Chris Van Allsburg book, and saying like this is art. And I think that is sort of the difference of the type of work that you're talking about, in the sense that like it is not meant to be like the sole goal is not, hey, how does this market well? How does,
Right.
how many units are we going to move? The
Right.
goal is like, how do I make a beautiful image that will leave a lasting impression with the
Yeah.
audience? And
I
so,
mean, what are the books about the rabbit and the carrot? I'm blanking on but they've been like really popular and are always on the like tables at Barnes and Noble. You
oh,
know,
like
there's a
Pat the
Hello.
Bunny?
Yeah, no, there's
Oh,
they're like a Halloween book.
yeah, the
It's
Peter Brown books.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm like, they have kind of an animation sort of um, history to them. Like they feel like they're um, built from an animator's sensibility and a
yeah,
cartoon sensibility. I'm not doing those books. Yeah, I just
yeah. That's
like I just like that just doesn't connect with what I do, I guess.
now. Wait a second. Is in saying that meaning like that your work doesn't look like it's akin to that, or does that
Yeah.
mean that you think that how do I put this, that you're not interested in that type of work? You know what I mean? Like,
Um,
is it something that is self diagnosed, or is it
yeah, it
something
might
you
be.
think
It
is?
might be self-diagnosed. I don't know. And maybe, if the right story came along, I guess, I just don't draw that way. And so
Yeah.
I'm always like, it's like hard edges, I'm not a hard edge guy. I'm like soft edges and
Mm.
sort of mist and gray and browns, you know,
I
everything
like
on
the
toned
terminology of
paper.
the hard edge. You're not a hard edge guy, whereas like I feel like I'm a hard edge guy, but I like it deteriorated. I
Yeah.
don't like
Yeah.
I like a hard edge, but I don't want it to look like it's brand new. I want it to look like it's been around for
Right.
a while. And so like that idea of like defining yourself by that edge is a good sort of marker, I think, for folks. So if you, I mean, if someone came to you and said, I want to do a piece that's like about a bulldozer, but it's about like, uh, well, I guess there's two ways to ask this question. One is, what kind of story about a bulldozer would you want to work on? I.e.,
Mm.
like if there was something about like an old like 1930s bulldozer.
Oh, that'd be that. Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. And
Yeah.
again,
Okay.
that's probably, like, is it Robert Lawson that who did the one about the backhoe or the digger?
Oh
But
yeah. Yeah.
that's a really old book. But I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, okay, you could make it, feel that way. Or I think of like it might feel like a Curious George, book where you can have sort of contemporary, but have that sort of classical style. And I guess I'm thinking classical because it's history to us. It's not like being made in the moment.
Yeah,
So
no, the reason why I asked that is like, yeah, there's probably some limitation in the sense of like, uh, like I wouldn't expect you to work on a book where a tractor or um, a bulldozer or whatever has like googly eyes. Like,
yeah, no,
that's not your
that's
thing.
not my thing.
But I can imagine like a really beautiful book about like the delicacy of um, the history of construction
Oh
or
yeah, or like the taking down of a city and rebuilding a new city,
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like building a new highway and the homes that, you know, eminent domain. It could be a story about eminent domain, how people lose their homes
Which is
for the new freeway.
yeah, all the kids really need to learn about imminent domain.
That's right. That's right.
You know, all those kids that are like, oh, this is what a causeway is, and this is what a yeah,
That's right. This
structural
is
engineering books.
this
Yeah,
is this is what your legislature okays. Yeah.
I love the idea of like, what's it called, the easement on
Yeah.
property. They're like
That's right.
a whole book that's about that.
This
Like,
is terrible.
the kids can play, but only up to so far, and then the
Yeah.
government gets involved. Um, is there, obviously like there's this challenge of trying to figure out sort of who you are as an illustrator. And as you said, you're relatively new to the industry, but it doesn't mean you're new to illustration, but just,
Right.
but how much of it do you think is, and this is going to be sort of a loaded question, but how much of what we're talking about here is the idea of you trying to navigate what you did before, or like the fine art side and illustration, and how much of this is just naturally what you gravitate towards?
Oh, yeah, that's great. I I am like this, as evidenced by how long it's taking me to draw this stupid dog's face. Is I'm kind of a fiddler. I'm like fiddly and little strokes and build up tone, um, and that's how I painted my oil paintings, and that's how this kind of work just kind of falls naturally. I for a long time okay, this is way back when Chris, 16-year-old Chris, used to hang out in Salt Lake City at this record store called Ranch Records, and as evidenced by the title, it was a record store that did hardcore punk um, music and stuff, and where you could get your tickets to go see,
Yeah.
Black Flag or whoever came through. And I fell in love with like the black and white ink aesthetic of that era, and I so wanted to like work that way, and get out the brush and the ink and the pens, and um but it's like, and I did it for a while as an illustrator. That's what I did with Shannon Associates, and I would get work that way. But and I still have some on my website, but I'm like, oh, I should probably take this down. Like I should take this down off my website, because that's not really the kind of work I feel connected to. It's like this work that I'm doing now, which is this, like I talked about, the sort of soft edge. And when I do break out pens, I am like, how do I add atmosphere to these pen and ink drawings?
So
You know,
I have to go back and ask a question. This question is going to be a weird question, but or maybe not. Were you a like hardcore punk kid back in the day?
oh, yeah. No, so I had moved from Arizona to Utah and found myself my sophomore year of high school without any friends. Just because, like, new high school, new starting high school, moving back to a place where I hadn't lived since I was much younger. So, living in suburbia, and I was like, met this kid named Mike. Mike was my best friend. Mike's like, hey, I'm going to a concert. You want to go with me? And I'm like, okay. And he's like, it's only $5. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I couldn't afford that. And
Yeah.
he's like, it's an Italian speedcore band called Raw Power. And I'm like, cool, okay.
Yeah.
And so we went, and it was at this Native American sort of like cultural center building. It's called the Indian Walk-In Center. And so we go to this building kind of on the west side of Salt Lake. West side at the time, east side, west side. West side is the sort of scarier industrial part
Okay.
of town. And we go to this thing, and I'm like, whoa, who are all these people? And check it out. This is really cool. And yeah, so I got into it, and I ended up doing, like, I would draw the artwork that would be used for flyers for bands that came to town for this record store. And it was, it's that DIY sort of stuff back, in the 80s. That's the sort of punk aesthetic, was that sort of DIY. So I was doing that. I was doing, album covers for local bands, and it was all pen and ink, and I loved it, man. I was just, and like I said, I loved Alan Kober's work, and I thought, man, if I could make some crazy, weird drawings, that'd be
Well,
awesome.
what I'm wondering now, and because of that, like you bring that up, the first thought I have in my mind is, I have to tell this little story, and I've
Yeah.
told it on here before, but
When I was in uh, college, I listened to a lot of sort of like uh, punk, post-punk, some
Uh-huh.
hardcore, et cetera, down the line, right?
Yeah.
And um, I didn't listen to much else. And so when I got out of school and I started listening to other stuff, like now I'll listen to like, you know, John Denver is really fun
Hmm.
sometimes, and like whatever it may be. And I started referring to the music that I listen to now as crotch-punch music. And the idea is that if my past self were to somehow teleport into the future and hear what I was listening to, I would punch myself in the crotch, um, because of I
Yes.
can't believe you're
Yes.
listening to light yacht rock or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm
Like
wondering,
Tony
like,
Orlando and Dawn.
yeah, like, oh, so you're like Captain and Tennille now, huh?
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, like, the discrepancy is funny with like, okay, now you're doing these books that are these like sweet and um, beautiful and whatnot, but you're talking about growing up in a scene where you were doing stuff for hardcore and punk and
That's right.
whatnot, and
That's
like,
right. Lots of
are
skulls.
you doing crotch punch art now? Is that what you've become?
No, maybe it's my mellowing out, when you get to a certain age, or I just, I mean, so much. Like I said, I feel like I'm a bit of a schizophrenic when it comes to art. I love so much of it. I actually have to like limit how much I look at work because I'm like, oh, I want to try that. Oh, I want to
Yeah.
try that. Oh, I want to try that. And so, I think, have you ever seen the Woody Allen movie Zelig? You've
No,
seen Zelig.
I don't know that one.
Zelig's kind of a lesser known, and it's about a guy. If I remember it right, it's been a long time since I've seen it. But it's about a guy who has like, it's that neurotic Woody Allen character when he's got really bad self-esteem, and he's kind of a pushover. And what ends up happening is he's a human chameleon, and so it doesn't matter who he's with. He kind of becomes he kind of like connects with those people. So like, he's sitting there chatting with African American boxers, and he becomes African American. And then he's with some Hasidic Jews in Brooklyn, and he becomes like he physically transforms into like a Hasidic Jew. And there's like this over and over again. And I always like think of that. I'm like, sometimes I feel like that, like, oh, I'm in the scene.
Mhm.
What's cool in the scene? I'm making this kind of work. I'm going to make this kind of work. And I think I finally, sort of like stopped that. And I'm like, I'm going to make the work that I really, this, like, I love this sort of timeless, soft, um, kind of work now. And so this is where I spend most of my time, and I don't do that other stuff as much. It appears in my sketchbook, but where I allow myself to sort of play. But more and more, I want to do this kind of work, and
Yeah,
and and
yeah.
just sort of like go, okay, I've chased all those rabbits. Now let's just focus.
I'm just gonna say, if for some reason you see a old past self of yourself coming towards you, cover up. Uh,
Yeah,
you never know
yeah,
where that's coming from.
yeah.
It's like I have the same, like mine is music. Like I think if my past self found my artwork, they'd be like, oh, okay, that sort of makes sense. Um, but if you were into like my work right now is sort of weird and nonsense, and maybe it's a
Mhm.
little bit more cartoony or a little bit like less serious for what I was trying to do at the time, but um, it's maybe not as abrupt a change as punk hardcore to
Yeah,
beautiful horses about little girls and their relationship.
right.
You know,
Yeah,
there's
no.
a
And
difference there.
when I was in school at BYU, I felt like the start of my junior year, I started to like click with a certain aesthetic. And every now and then I find one of those pieces and share it online. But It has, it's a pencil driven, it's colored pencils mainly over like watercolor washes. And, it's, of course, back then everything was hand driven. And I look back at that stuff now and I'm like, oh, I see a thread to my
Yeah.
college work to what I'm doing now. But like my younger self, maybe not so much.
The it's the idea of sort of transitioning over time. One of the things that I've said on here probably way too many times, but I think that in general people sort of gravitate towards their to the roots of what they're actually doing. So like the equivalent of
Oh, yeah.
um, I I want to get into like a certain type of artwork, and it's very easy to look at the superficial level of it and go, oh, I want to do kids books, and I'm going to just try to mimic what's happening today. And eventually you start to go, well, that's not enough. I need to go find
Oh,
out where this all started. And so like
yeah.
the way that I always think of it, and this is going to sound well, it's going to sound how it's going to sound, but there was a point where Metallica released a like not necessarily a country album, but something that was more like um, adjacent to sort of blues,
Hmm.
country,
Kind of a
whatever. And it's
roots
like,
rock kind of thing.
yeah, and so going back to the roots of like, oh, this is how this all started, and like where did the modern thing that we're doing come from, and
Mm-hmm.
sort of I think of artwork as sort of doing the same thing. That like at a
Hmm.
certain point I start to go like, okay, well, who are the people that were really important that somehow transitioned over time to what I'm doing today? And I can go look at like you said, Chris Van Allsburg. It's easy to go look at Chris Van Allsburg, but who was he looking at, and who were they looking
Yeah.
at before them, et cetera, down the line? And eventually you get to some stuff that's just wild and different and might give some like interesting sort of play that you weren't expecting.
Well, and
uh,
he's a guy that I think studied fine art. I mean, like he was a
yeah,
fine artist
he was a
and then
sculptor.
ended up doing drawings. And like, the drawings were so phenomenal. People were like, yeah, absolutely, do this book. Yeah, we'll do it.
Have you ever seen his sculptures?
I have not seen his sculptures.
Oh, you got to go look at his sculpture. That he
Really?
came and talked to my class because he taught at RISD, uh,
Okay.
and he can't. I don't even remember what class I was taking at the time, but he came in, and of course we all knew his like Jumanji and all
Yeah.
the books that he had done. But then he brought in images of his sculpture work, and I was actually more captivated by his sculpture work than I was his illustrations, and they
Oh,
were
wow.
illustrative of sorts.
Hmm.
Like I remember there was a chessboard, and the board itself had this giant like tidal wave that was rolling across it, and so like beautifully um, uh, put together sort of woodworking and craftsmanship and whatnot. That of course is akin to what he does with graphite and pencil and things
Hmm.
of the sort. But yeah, if you've never seen that, you should go see if you can
I'll
hunt
take
that
a
down.
look.
It is an interesting sort of take, especially if you
Yeah.
already have a sense of like what to expect from him in particular.
Yeah. Well, I always loved, like, when I was in school and then when I was through the 90s, illustrators that really like did it for me were like, there's a guy, John Collier, um,
Collie.
IER.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. He now does kind of like, I think he does commissions for like I think he's Catholic. So he does a lot of religious work and sculpture, but he was winning awards. He'd be in the CAs. And then John Rush. I don't know if you ever remember the illustrator John Rush. He was another guy. And they kind of had this fine art sensibility or this timeless sensibility to their work that I always was kind of captivated. Like it felt like their work wasn't disposable.
Mm.
And I feel like so much like the trap with illustration. I mean, as much as I loved, Bernie Fuchs' work, I was like, this really doesn't work outside of Sports Illustrated. It's like a
Yeah.
golf picture, and it could be a beautiful, painting of, the ninth hole at wherever. But I was always like, yeah, but in the end, it just served its purpose, and now, like, I would never hang that on my wall. And I always felt like sheepish about that. Like that was the the part about illustration that I always felt sort of sad about, and that was, maybe the fine artist in me saying, like, there was the illustrator Wendell, is it Wendell Miner? Um, would do illustrations that I thought, oh yeah, I don't need to know the context of this book, or this article
Yeah, it's just a
for
beautiful.
whatever. It's a
Yeah,
beautiful piece. Yeah.
yeah. That's it.
Um,
I like the idea. Is it hangable? Like,
yeah.
is it something that you would want on your wall? Like, admittedly, a lot of the work that I do is probably not hangable in that sense. Like, it's good for book format. It's good for on screen. It's not something
That's
you're not going to put it up over your couch. That's the
Well, maybe, I'm, I've got kids that are young adults, and I'm, the aesthetic now, like in my son's home, they collect stuff that's like brightly colored, like neon, and, funky design and texture.
yeah,
And I think I shared with you that gallery, Hey There projects that's in
yeah, yeah.
Joshua Tree. I mean, that the work that's being shown there, it's got maybe a more of an outsider, like is it you do cassette tapes,
Mm,
like
yep.
those wooden cassette tapes. Those are brilliant. I look at those and I'm like, no, that's like art. That's got kind of like a outsider art thing going, and it sort of crosses that barrier that you're talking
See,
about.
I could see those. I have to actually do a new batch of those
Oop.
uh, coming up, and I got to figure out what artists to put into it, because that's the challenge every time. Is like, okay, I don't want to have repeats if I can help it, um,
Yeah.
but I got to do something of the sort. But no, it's funny because you mentioned that, and I'm thinking like, yeah, when my wife and I first got married, our house had um, it was like red, black, and neon green. It
Mm.
was like the color theme of our room, and like,
Wow.
yeah, it's a lot. Uh,
Yeah.
but again, we were going and collecting like old like vintage lamps and
Mm-hmm.
things that were of that ilk, mod kind of things, and putting them up in our house.
Yeah. Cool.
Matter of like, now I go, okay, if I'm gonna put something in my house, I want it in a frame. And maybe it's just
Yeah.
I'm getting older and I'm not as adept to living a little like I once did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Cutting
and
loose.
there's also, I think, a lot to be said about, when you're young and married, you don't have a lot of money, and so you sort of approach it, you know, from obliquely. It's like, oh, I
Yeah,
can't go out and buy the Ethan Allen furniture, but I can find this cool wagon wheel couch and
yeah,
redo the cushions on it and paint it, some crazy color, and
I can.
that'll be cool.
Yeah, something that's I found on the side of the road, kind of like
Yeah.
I wouldn't buy furniture, or I wouldn't get furniture off the side of the road, but I know plenty of college students that do on a
Oh
regular
yeah.
basis.
Yep.
Like,
They always
I don't
smell
know
a
what's
little
in it.
funky.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, that's a that there's a funk smell that with those for sure. Um, is there? I mean, obviously, you're we're talking about this like, or a good bit of the conversation's been about this sort of like this line between um, I don't want to say quality, but of like something that has so much heart to it that it's hard to deny that it's a beautiful piece, and
Yeah.
then the commercial aspect of putting it out there. And I'm
Hmm.
wondering, with that idea of you're making these beautiful pieces of artwork, and then in turn they get put into a book, and then it's put on a shelf in a bookstore, and obviously, like, kids are going to look at it and they're going to be like in love with it, or they're going to have some memory attached to it as they grow up or whatever. But do you look at that work in a different way because it has been, it's not in a frame on a wall, it's not um, somehow treated in the same way as uh, uh, a painting that you would do for a gallery or what have
Yeah.
Like, is
You
there
know,
some separation in your head in that sense?
yeah, I think there is a little bit, but I had this funny experience. Okay, so when I was, again, I'm a like second year student at college, and I needed to fill my electives. And so I took a printmaking class, and the printmaking courses, it was intaglio printing. So it was etching and dry point and, get out the rosin box and do, all of that stuff. Um, and I took the class. It was one of the most expensive classes I ever had to take, because I kept having to buy these large zinc plates that I had to cut up and file the edges, and it was very meticulous and process oriented, which I really got into. And I remember one day the guy that was teaching was adjunct. I think he was a graduate student at the time, and he had some really interesting sort of ideas about art. And they were very sort of anti-modernist. At the school, they wanted these. They were talking about sacred geometry and all these interesting things. But when I'm in this class, one of the full-time faculty members, one of the tenured professors, walks in, and he was this really interesting guy from Germany who had won the Prix de Rome for his printmaking. I mean, he's kind of a big deal, and he always said like really provocative things. And he walks into class, and my students knew, or my classmates knew, that I was an illustration major, and so they thought, oh, let's play a gag on Chris.
Yeah, put them on
So
the spot.
as Yeah, and so as this professor walks in, they say, but Chris, why aren't you here in the fine art department? Why are you over in illustration in the design department? And this faculty member heard what they were saying. And he walks over to me. I didn't know this guy, but he walks over to me and he says, in a really, dramatic way, he said, illustration is a mere caricature of art. And the faculty member, the graduate student, like, kind of chuckled and said, "There's some fighting words." And I, I was like kind of stunned, because I'm like, I'm just here, I'm enjoying this class, and you want to
Yeah.
like throw down art, like. I'm like, aren't we all like, shouldn't we all try and get along? And so I said to him, I said, well, more people read books and magazines than walk into museums. And
Ooh.
and he went, and he said, well, maybe that's the problem, and then kind of walked over, talked to the faculty member, and left. And I just remember thinking, like, it's a luxury to, go into a museum if you've got them nearby, or if you know a lot of people, I think, walk into museums, especially with contemporary art, and they feel like they don't know what's going on in there, and so they feel dumb, and they don't like that. And I think there are artists who make really great work that, some of the um more creative, pieces that are made, that are like, who is it, the guy that does the hole in the floor with the and then paints it with that Vanta black. So
Oh,
just looks. Do you know what I'm talking about? Or
yeah.
he also, Anish Kapoor, right? So Anish Kapoor like makes these things that are really kind of amazing, right? And anybody can go in and kind of have an experience with that. But if you walk in and look at a lot of sort of conceptual art, people are like, I just don't get it, and I feel kind of dumb about it, and I don't like having that feeling. Yet most people will pick up, even with kind of the weirder illustration, like it. I remember back to looking at work like Fred Ottness, right? He would do like these collage illustrations that were really, really interesting, kind of hard to like digest, and they were, really challenging image wise. But people still had an in to it. They felt like they could read it, and so I do think that, in a lot of ways, illustration is like, art for everybody. And
Yeah.
that's and I don't know if it is for everybody, but there is you look at, if a Norman Rockwell show shows up at your local museum, a lot of people go see the Norman Rockwell show,
Yep.
you know
Yeah.
but but if you pick like a Jackson Pollock show, people love Jackson Pollock, but people are still like, can't get over the fact that he dripped paint, and that was, how many years ago? 50, 60 years ago when he was doing that. But they still think like, oh, he's gone too far.
Yeah,
And
my
they're,
kid could do that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, that
yeah,
stuff. And you don't want to like go through the whole like, let me explain art history to you, and
yeah. Well, it's
so
the one that I always use as an example whenever someone says something like that, like that doesn't get contemporary art, is I have to explain that if you go back and look at what Picasso was painting when he was 16, and how
yeah,
he could outpaint every single one of us in a
yeah,
heartbeat and whatnot, and it's like the idea that somehow his work isn't valuable because he likes to do weird faces now doesn't make
right,
sense when you look at the history that was before it. And I understand
right,
the idea of like, if you don't understand the history, then that doesn't make any sense. But like, take a second. It's not that hard. You go to the
right.
museum and you say, oh, let me research a little.
Yeah, I have a neighbor who, on a regular basis, brings up Picasso to me, and that thing of like, you look at what he could do at 17, and like,
Yeah.
why is he making these ugly paintings? And I'm like, well, let's talk about that, But then, but it's like, I don't want to know about why, And I'm like, no, you got to like to understand the fact that these people went through World War I, and they had the lost generation, and they
Yeah.
had, that syphilis was a huge problem, and they were all, going to the brothels. And so when he paints Damoiselle d'Avignon, he's also visiting the ethnographic museums and masks, and like, and so he's like mashing it up, and it's coming out like that. And that's kind of interesting, isn't it, that he's making work like that? But
Do you want to do
people are
the
like,
work that you're doing when you were 16 too? You want to go to
yeah,
McDonald's, or you want to like, you want to do
yeah,
the
right,
rest of your life? That's
right.
um
But
the
I don't fault him for like not liking it. I mean, he
no.
can have his opinion, right? But the joke was always, we had a grad school faculty member who talked about. He's like, let's talk about Thomas Kincaid, because I think he had passed away, and people were like just trashing him, and there's some legitimate stuff that we could talk about with Thomas Kincaid. But I was also like, but like people's grandmothers like love his work, and they find meaning in his work. And so like, who am I to say you can't like that, and you should, let me curate your understanding. But
There was I forget who it was that I was talking to. Oh, I was talking to someone about the idea of, it was a student who was like, since you're a teacher, you get this. There's a student who was
yeah,
like trying to render something to death, and
yeah,
he placed value on the rendering and not on the idea.
yeah,
And like, rendering is beautiful, but the idea has to be there first. And I was walking him through this whole process there, and then I talked to him about Mo Willems,
mm-hmm.
and I said, okay, well, let's go look at your favorite artist right now. And he showed me some Instagram artist that he liked or whatever. And I said, like, you think his work is great, right? And I said, I pulled up Mo Willems and I said, what do you think about this? And they were like, I don't get it. And they didn't understand sort of the reference that I was making. And eventually I just said, okay, well, I want you to think about this. The person that I'm showing you has made so much money off of these things, and knows how to and it's not just financial, but knows how to tap into something as simple as like the tiniest little line drawing that connects with people all around the world, and has made his life so like set that he doesn't have to worry about
Yeah,
where the gig come from. So he doesn't have to do all these things that we're having to fight for. And I'm not trying to like downplay his artist that he was showing me, but I had to explain to him, like, you're putting the idea of surface and of finish ahead of the thing that is,
right,
and Mo Willems is not about this like thing that is the most beautiful aesthetic in the world. It's about efficiency
and it's about storytelling for a very specific audience. And like, let's go back and look at your work and let's figure out, is there a way that maybe there's a point where you need to stop and say, okay, well, who's the audience? What am I doing this for? And not just go, well, because I put in more hours, somehow that means it's more valuable. And
Well, and don't you think, I think we are so enamored with sort of high realism, that sort of photorealism, that it is, you're right. Like, what's that movie? There's that movie about the guy who tries to meet up with, the British painter, David Hockney, and he makes like this drawing of Marilyn Monroe. He's like some kid in like Massachusetts or something, and he spends hours doing this large scale drawing of Marilyn Monroe. It's a really interesting documentary, and like he has his job at a bar, and he's either at the bar working or he's home, and he's working on this thing, and he gets like his local parish priest to sort of like help, like people know people, and he wants to get an audience with David Hockney for some validation, because he thinks, I'm going to have this one drawing and it's going to jumpstart my art career.
yeah,
And so he spends like the number of hours on this drawing, and the pencils, like, and he's wearing like, jeweler's goggles and all of this stuff. And he gets this drawing done, and it's a faithful recording of the photograph, and he takes it in, and he somehow, someone knows somebody, and he gets an audience with David Hockney. And I don't know if it was in San Francisco at his home there, or if it was in England, but he shows him, and Hockney is kind of like impressed by the technical aspect of it. And then the kid leaves, he's probably in his early 20s. Guy leaves, and Hockney says, in the end, it's just that damn photo. It was like, it wasn't even, it didn't matter that he spent all that time, because he erased himself in the image, and he was just copying somebody else's art, somebody else's photo. And he's like, in the end, it's just that damn photo. And I was like, wow, like, yeah, like you're saying, I think people want to like see themselves in the work. And so you've got to have like in some way, you've got to figure out a way to leave, like you can't solve everything, whether it's visually or whatever. You've got to leave something for the art audience to come in and like fill in the gap for themselves, so that they can feel like they're participating. Otherwise, they're just like this passive viewer, and they won't remember what you did.
I mean, that's something that I was just telling my wife. She got me this book for Christmas about children's book writing and illustrating. It's this old text, and I was reading through it, and one of the things that I realized is like, there are times where I fall back on, and I need to be more careful about this, but I fall back on getting too close to the text and not saying something new in the process. And part of it is just, it's easy to do that. It's easy to sit there and get caught up in saying, it says that they go uphill, so I'm going to put them going uphill. I mean, obviously there's interpretations and things that I'm doing that I'm adding to the equation, but it's definitely not, I need to work more on that aspect of like introducing something that is unique to me and my voice and what I would say about that in situations. And some of it is, the reason why she got that for me was for writing purposes, so that, I'm writing not for or I'm writing a text that is not heavy and is not overly descriptive and things of that sort. That's what I'm going to probably take from it. But that idea of, I mean, it reminds me of when I was going through school, there was a teacher that mentioned that there were students when he was there that said, I'm going to go out to Rockwell's house. And, Rockwell was old at the time, and like, let's go get him to critique our work. And they're all like, it's so good. There's no way. And they had gotten all this praise from school. And then they finally got out there and they met Rockwell's wife or whoever it was, and they, you know, she said, "Sit here and I'll go get them." And they came out there and they thought it was going to be this like genius level critique, and he's going to think they're amazing and whatnot. It ends up that he basically just said, "Your work is trash," and do it over.
That would hurt. That
Yeah,
would
it's
hurt.
like, but it was the same sort of like, it was not that their work was bad, but it was not what it should be. And it was that they were like,
Yeah.
you know, they had this vision that if I do something that Rockwell does, or if I do something that, you know, these heroes of ours do, that somehow they will look at it and go, cool. But in reality, they're just going, well, you're just imitating at this point. And, you know, either whether it's from a photo or not, like you mentioned that idea of the photocopy aspect. One of the things that really bothers me, and I understand why they do it, but it still bothers me to this day. And I don't know if you had the same thing. When you were in school, we had assignments they would give us where it was, here's a clipping from a magazine.
Hmm.
Here's like a face from a magazine. We're going to cut it in half, and you have to draw the other half of the face.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm
Yes.
talking about? This kind of assignments?
Everybody. Why does everybody do that
And
assignment?
it's,
Yeah.
what bothers me about it so much is just that idea of, it's about replicating. It's not about saying anything. And it's
Hmm.
praising copying over expression. And so I think it, you know, like an assignment like that goes, okay, we want you to draw the other side, but add something to it, do something new with it. Like that's a very
Yeah.
different assignment. But so when we get students that come to our school, some of them, their portfolios are these like, you know, very typical sort of high school art class assignments like that. And I just
Mm.
go like, okay, but what do you want to say? Like, why are we doing
Yeah.
this? And
Well, and
hopefully you can render, but
that's the harder question. And in a lot of ways, sometimes I feel like it's the question that you can't answer for them,
oh
and
no.
it's easier. Like my one of my colleagues, we, we're heading back into spring semester next week, and we were
Ooh, next
talking
week.
about,
Ouch.
yeah, oof. And we were talking about like, this like balance of like building skills, technical skills, but like how do we know, when a student, like it's one of those things. It's that book, You Can't Teach Art, right? Like there's, it when you see it, and it's really hard to tell a student like I had a girl this last semester. I had this media class. It's like a acrylic painting class, and I don't like teaching sort of traditional painting in it because I feel like they need to do just what you're saying. It's like I do give them an assignment where they have to render something very diligently, but I also say, here, let's do these assignments where
Yeah.
they can make artistic decisions and come up with something kind of interesting and just use the paint, right, in an interesting
Yeah.
way. And I had this gal that they have to do this postcard for a national park, and so we talk about the format, and I give them a color problem to solve, and like this girl's doing her like comp sketches, and I'm like, look, I need, my job is to sort of walk you through the process. So I will, I'll look at your thumbnail sketches and your ideas, and we'll talk about them, and we'll get to your comps, and we'll talk about them. And she's like doing her comp, but she's doing it in paint, and she's the only one doing this. And she would come up to me and say, how does this look? And it was messy, and she's using like the fattest brush that she had, and she's like she's like kind of like a wild person, painting.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it, and I'd say, well, this part's a little weird, or like the design isn't working. And so she'd take that, I mean, it's just on a piece of paper. She'd take it back to her desk, and she'd like attack it again, and then come back, and she's like repainted half of it. And it was so, like, she was such an aggressive painter. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to ruin this, because she's got something that's not like any of her classmates. Like nobody else
Yeah.
is making this kind of work. And so at the end of the semester, I was just like, girl, you need to like lean into this. And I said, you're going to have a hard time in some classes because they're going to want you to, really render. And so you're going to have to figure how to like manage that. But like this thing that you're doing is like seems like you, like
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and like you can't like let it, like you have to be really careful in art school that you don't like burn that out of those kids. And you're right, like some kids come, um I call them kids, that's not really fair, but some come with this like, oh, if I can make this look exactly like the photo, like I'm in like Flynn, you know what I mean? And
Yep.
some of those kids were the hardest ones to work with because they were so rigid, and they had gotten so much praise for drawing that dang photograph, and I'm like, no, it's like, some
Well,
people can pull it off, but like this is just like bad,
do
and
you
but,
do you have the
it's hard.
problem that I have right now, which is that the students like, so I ran a class this last semester, and we're talking art school, but I think for those that are listening or for those that are watching and listening, hopefully no one's just watching and just completely shut us out. But
That's right. Ask questions. Ask questions.
um, but one of the problems that I have right now is I ran this class that was called Breakout. And the idea
Mm,
of the class was, are you stuck in your style? Are you having trouble sort of defining yourself as an illustrator? Blah, 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 down the line.
mhm,
And the gist of the class is like, okay, let's get the students who are really struggling to figure out who they are as an illustrator and help give them some direction. So I had assignments that were kind of, it was a very open class. In fact, this when I told the coordinator, I'm the chair of the program, and so I oversee this coordinator. But when I told the coordinator what I was doing, she was a little shocked because I basically didn't set up a syllabus. I had a
oh
syllabus
wow.
that said like, here is the days and the things that we need to cover, but there is no like assignments of any sort. And so
Oh
part of it was,
wow. That sounds cool.
yeah, the idea is like, let's have a conversation with the students and figure out what they're struggling with. Like, why am I here to prescribe to everybody the same thing, the one size fits all? And
Yeah.
it's a course about, style, or it's a course about these things. And so we talked about it, and I told them all these things. I like, okay, my fear is that that everybody sort of follows suit of what they see out there and isn't sort of separating themselves or becoming something new or whatnot. And I asked them all to do a list of like their favorite artists, but also a list that was like artists that are not akin to their style that they look at.
Mm.
And almost all of them, I could not see the difference. You know what
Oh,
I mean? Like I
interesting.
looked at it and I'm like, oh, this sort of just looks like the same artist. Like I have a hard time telling one from the next. And of course they can
Yeah.
go and spot it, but from an outsider point of view, it's too similar. Uh,
Yeah.
so the challenge that I had all semester was like the class is called Breakout. And I'm like, okay, you guys want to go do printmaking? Go do printmaking. You want to make something sculptural? Do it. And there was a student who did this really lovely piece that was uh, she made plushies, like plush
Oh,
stuffed animal seals, and then photo bashed them in scenes of
oh wow.
like circus scenes and other things of the sort. And it was really cool, and it came out way better than I expected it to.
Yeah.
And I was excited by it, but most of them just kind of stayed in their pocket. And
Yeah.
they would throw in the tiniest little variation and be like, look at how different it is. I'm like, oh no, you got to like find ways to like make a name, not necessarily that you have to be like the most innovative thing out there, but like when I look at yours and I look at the person sitting next to you, I should be able to tell the difference. And
Yeah.
I think it's partially because of social media.
Yeah.
There's
Yep.
too much right now. And so like you can get into a like, look at this wide range, but it's a wide range of all the same thing. And it's hard to like go down, it's hard to get social media to show you artwork that is absolutely tangential to what you do.
Yeah. I I have been thinking about this a lot, because I teach a beginning illustration class. It's like we call it, imagination and visual literacy, and it's like their first sort of illustration. Like we teach an illustration methodology. We talk, like they have a sketchbook they have to fill from cover to cover,
Yeah.
and there are a lot of guided exercises, but also a lot of time where they have to sort of figure out who they are. There's a lot of like writing. I make them do a lot of writing. I use like John Hendrick's book, And there's another book that I love to use. I think it's Whitney Sherman's Playing with Sketches book, and a couple others. But I make them do a ton of writing as a way of like hoping that they break that. Um, but it's so hard because, man, instant gratification. I mean, I fall victim to it. It's like, oh, why did this one, receive all the accolades and no one is even looking at this one? But then I look at like, illustrators I really love, and I'm like, they're only getting 20 likes. It's like
Yep.
I'm scratching my head, going, and then I think, oh, it's because that's the way the algorithm works. It's not, it's like it's just not showing anybody the work, and so maybe that's not the thing to struggle with. But you're right. That's kind of a fine art approach. That was something I learned in my fine art classes, where I had this crazy class at Art Center where the teacher, he was American, but he was born in France, and he really played up his sort of Frenchness.
And a beret.
We went to the LA County Museum of Art, and he showed up in the evening wearing a long coat and a beret, and we watched a
Oh, he did.
lot of. Yes, it was like a huge beret too, and we watched a lot of like French New Wave films. So I saw a lot of Francois Truffaut films, and I saw a lot of I saw like Roman Polanski films like Knife in the Water, and I
Yeah.
saw Jules et Jim, like all of these, like, yeah, like he was just like, I'm like, what am I paying for? Like that was the thing that I kept thinking, at the time. But like one day in class, he's like, all right, the assignment is you have to do something that's completely opposite. Like you have to do something daring and opposite, and you have a week. And I was like, what the crap? And people were talking about how like, and granted, okay, so this is art school, so people can get away with stuff, in the name of art. Like a couple of years earlier, somebody had come to the university nude and had been nude the whole day, right? And this was sort of before sort of LGBTQ stuff, but like one person dressed in drag the whole day, and so there was like people were like really pushing their boundaries, and I remember like doing I made a painting. I took like 40 hours and made this little still life, and then in front of the class I took a pair of scissors to it and cut it into little pieces, and it was like the hardest thing to like
Yeah.
cut up all that hard work. That was my out of character thing. But that's what I loved about fine art, that I think we don't teach enough, illustrators, like what you're saying is like, find work that's opposite of what you do, or you know like you've got to think about how you fit in this other thing, because it is an art form, and it's not just a technical
Yeah.
rendering, it's a thinking thing. And the best illustrators um, think very deeply about the work that they make,
And
and
the best illustrators right now, I could name them and you would go, and it's the same sort of concept of, I would name them and you'd go, oh, I know exactly what they do. And it's
yeah,
never a question of like, oh, is it this person or that person? Like, if I
yeah,
said Brad Holland, you envision
right,
Brad Holland's work, you know the exact style of Brad Holland.
yeah,
And it's not to say that style is like so important to override things, but I think that like people's perception, and part of this, and I think some of this is also these students are looking at, and for anybody that's listening going like, well, what does a student have to do with me? Like
yeah.
the mindset
That's right.
is the idea that if you follow too closely to what's out there, are you doing anything new that's different, that is going to be challenging, is going to rock the boat? Because I'm not saying that, there's plenty of people, myself included, don't make books that are these like, award-winning, challenging, newest thing in the world. But my approach to it is probably a little bit different than the next person. And enough
Right,
so that an art director is going to come to me versus that person. You know what I mean?
right,
Like that I'm the person that can do what I do, and there's not anybody else trying to achieve that.
And so if you're staying so close to the original, and I think part of the challenge for these students is that they're caught up in, and this is the hard part for everybody, is they're caught up in the idea that um, they have to make money.
Hmm.
And once you start
Yeah.
throwing
Oof.
that dollar sign into this equation, then all of a sudden it's okay, well, how do I make work that's going to sell? And let me go look at what sells. And then all of a sudden you don't get
And and don't you think it's weirdly the opposite?
in what way? Meaning
Well,
like,
that if you work to be completely true and honest to your work, that's the work that sells,
oh,
and it's
yes,
not the
yes.
other stuff. You know, like, but and the pressure is real. I mean, geez, the pressure is real, and I get it. And they, their parents are like coming to high school day and asking us like, will my kid be able to make a living? And
Yep.
you're like, "Mm, maybe like if they can do anything else, I would have them do it,
Yep.
because you've got to like really, you're going to have to weather a lot of stuff. um
And this
and
also, I want to be careful because this is not just a student thing. This is a new starting
no,
art thing, like
yeah,
starting a career thing that sort of, sorry, I
yeah,
wanted to add that in so people know that we're
no,
not
no,
like that it can
no.
relate to them.
One of the best things I've done recently is I had students in this advanced class, and we would have these sort of like workshop days where I'm just available in the classroom, to answer questions or to talk to them about their projects. And they're, either they don't show up because they're working at home,
Yep.
because we're talking too much, or they want, they come to class, and then they are asking me, they're complaining about other classes, or they're asking me about stuff that they feel like they're not getting from school. And so it ends up being like these great sessions where we just shoot the breeze. But I try, apart from like talking about which restaurants are my favorite or which movies or music I'm listening to, we do talk about like art stuff. And students would say at the end of class, like, oh, can you write that down, like, and post it in the team chat or whatever? And I'm like, what did we talk about? And so and then I would forget, like, have I talked to you guys about this, or how to approach art directors, or how to like build a sustaining career, or how to ignore your faculty members? Like,
Yep.
how much do you listen to them? How much do you not listen to them? So I started a Substack this last year in the summertime to write down my thoughts. And some of these things we're talking about, and I have been astonished. Like, this idea of not wanting to draw accurately, but wanting to draw honestly was a big one that I wrote early, because I was like, oh my gosh, it just what you were saying. I'd have students come in and they'd be beautiful pieces, but they were just like forgettable or not
Yeah.
very interesting, and there was no and I just was like frustrated. And so I was like, why do I look at like Bill Traylor, the African American, like, he was like from the South, and he was an outsider artist, and he would do like these weird drawings of like cats and dogs and people in his community, and he was very poor, and so it was whatever materials he could gather, and those drawings had so much life. Or I would teach a beginning drawing class, and sometimes kids would like dedicate a ton of time, but they had like something off about their drawing. Like, they weren't really great renderers, but they like stuck with it to make like this really amazing drawing. And like, you're looking at it going, okay, the goal of this drawing was to have an accurately rendered picture of
Mhm.
whatever. But it but it wasn't that, and that's why it was good. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
But you also
And
have
I
to be
was like,
careful saying like, I like this part of it, because you don't want them to go like, or you don't want them to not learn the skill that you're trying to
yeah. And
convey.
I wrote this Substack about it, like drawing honestly, and how, like, what is that? And it's been really interesting because the people that are commenting are not students, but
Yeah.
I kind of feel like, it's called Office Hours. So, here's my shameless plug for my Substack. But it was like, hey, if these are, I think, just sort of universal art issues that, like you and I are talking about, that I run into all the time, and like maybe somebody else could use it, or I can point my students to it so I don't have to like keep repeating myself. I can just
Yeah.
say, hey, I wrote something about this. You should look it up on your own time, if I can't like sit
Do
and
your
chat with you
homework.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've been amazed at how many, people are like, oh, this really resonates. Like, how do I deal with this, the dichotomy of wanting to get better at the way I make work, but also not killing that thing that makes me love making the work? Because I mean, it is a drag drawing a sphere, and getting all
Yep.
the parts of the shadow right, and doing that half tone, as it crosses over. Like that's, but some people love it, and you can get caught in the trap of just making work like that, but then is just, at the end, like it's like that movie. It's like, well, it's just a sphere. Now what?
The one of the things that I've like the risk taking is a thing that I used to tell students all the time, and I think again I want to, for anybody that's listening, going again, how does this relate to me? This is not about students. We're talking about art making in general, but I'm using it as because historically that's where these conversations happen. But I talk to students about taking risks with their own work, and one of the things I told students, because we do, I don't know if you do the same thing, but at the end of the semester we have these like evaluation panels. They bring in all their work
Mm,
that they made throughout the semester, and a bunch of faculty that are generally not their teachers come in and just talk about it. And so you have like
oh
three
wow.
teachers on a panel, and the students bring in their work, and we have about 30 minutes per, and we write up some little assessment of what we talked about. It's not graded or anything of the sort, but it's just a chance to sort of reflect on what they've done, et cetera, down the line.
Mhm.
So we've been doing this for years, and I one of my challenges, I see all these students sort of doing the same assignment over and over. Like literally,
Mm,
it's the same assignment, and it comes in, you go, oh, this is so and so's class. This is what
right.
I know exactly what you were given for the assignment, how long you had, et cetera. And it's like, how can we mix that up? How can we change that? And so I was talking to the student at one point, and I said, okay, well, you got to take some risks. And they were like, well, what do you mean by that? And I said, okay, well, I want you to take this piece home and burn it. And,
Mm,
this is the like weird art teacher saying something, and they're all like, I
yeah.
know, well, what do you mean? And I explained to them that the idea is not that the burning is the like, I didn't mean for it to be like this, like when you burn it, then it becomes this piece and it speaks.
Yeah.
But I was actually saying you put too much value in this piece. This piece is
Yeah.
no longer worth what you think it is. And if you're willing to burn it, if you're willing to let it go, and whether burn it or, cut it up into pieces or whatever, however you see fit in that situation, that idea of like letting it go and saying this piece doesn't mean or doesn't define me as an artist going forward. Like, can you do that? And the shock on people's faces, not just students, but the other faculty members, of like, how could you tell a student to burn their piece? And it's like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I'm just saying it's, get over yourself in thinking that somehow you're making precious things.
Yeah.
And
I had this exact experience as a student at Art Center. Same setup. We had a 3-panel faculty. Actually, it was 4, and one of the people was a faculty member I had. And again, this is a fine art program that I was doing this in. But there was this painter who was like famous. Like he was at one of the big contemporary galleries in LA called Ace Contemporary. I mean, his paintings are going for tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars. He worked very large. He
yeah,
was famous. And I remember, I presented my work, and then they had that 15 minutes where they, gave me their feedback. And his name was John Millay. And John Millay looks at me and he goes, "Chris, you need to dance with the devil." And I just remember like reading it wrong. I was like, I'm this, kid from Utah, like, what, dance with the devil. What are you saying? And I just was like bothered. And it took me years to like figure out, oh, he was telling me, Chris, like, you're not taking any chances.
Yeah.
And you gotta take some chances. You're being too safe, and so stop being so safe.
I had the same thing. I had teachers, and this is not necessarily the exact same thing, but I had teachers for years tell me to lose the black line in my work.
Oh,
And they
yeah,
would never explain why, like an out.
yeah,
And it took me years to figure out, because they would just say, stop using the black line. And I'm like, okay, but what then? What do I don't understand what you're trying to get me to do. And
yeah,
eventually, after school, I finally realized that it was like, well, I'm using it as a crutch, which I knew that part of it, but I was using it as a crutch because I didn't know how to deal with edges.
yeah,
And I didn't understand how to deal with light and all these things that come into play. And until I lose that edge, I'm always going to be reliant on that black line to solve too many problems for me. And
right,
eventually I learned it, and now I say that to students all the time, like, you're using black line as a container, and
yeah,
it's not meant to be a container. It's meant to be, to define an edge, or to act as weight, or value, or like a faux shadow, or whatever it may be. um,
right,
and so, like, there's lessons that instructors give us, or people give us, that are very hard to hear or to
hmm,
interpret until much later in life. And I'm sure that there's people listening going like, oh, that's why they said that thing, or that's why they,
oh
whatever it
yeah,
may be.
ours was always like, in the oil painting class, they'd say, do not buy a tube of black oil paint. And you got to keep, like, leave it at home, and they would never
Yeah.
explain why. They were like, it'll kill your colors. That's all they would say. But then I would, like, go to the library and check out a book and see Degas paintings, and I'm like, well, Degas using black,
Yep.
and like
Yep.
all of these artists are using black. Like, what are they talking about? They don't. And then I started wondering, like, I wouldn't trust what they were saying, and like there was like all of this. And if somebody just said, like, look, let's do this, let's try this, you can use black, but let's first try,
Yeah.
mixing your colors. Let's mix a black, and you can still use it, and you'll get, and then we can explain it and talk about it. But I think, again, and this is always the challenge, right, is you only have so much time, and we were all so bad that, like why are we even like,
Yeah.
like, that was the least of our worries. Like we're like using this, never drying, gushy paint, and so, like,
It,
the black tube of paint, they're probably like so sick of going, quit using black to tone your palette,
yeah.
like, mix complementary. But they wouldn't explain that part of it. They would just say, get rid of the tube of black, and then that would be it.
I mean, I have students all the time that say to me, like, I'm like, okay, well, let's darken this up. What do you have? And I'm like, oh, you don't have black paint? And they'll go, well, we're told not to use black paint.
Yeah,
And I have to stop and say, okay, you were told that black paint, or like the equivalent of black paint isn't the solution to all your problems, is basically
yeah,
what you're being told. And you're interpreting that as, hey, don't ever use it. And it's like, I use it all the time in my artwork, and
yeah,
it's case dependent. Uh,
right.
so, like,
There's a friend of mine told me one day, because I was complaining about this to him, and he said, "Yeah, Chris," he said, "just tell them there are no rules. There are only tools." And so, you just have to sit down and say, what is the thing I'm building? And then you break out the tools that are useful to make that thing. And so if black paint is going to be a problem, then don't use black paint. But if black paint is part of the solution, then absolutely use it, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. It's funny because it's clearly just the naivete of the situation, or the lack of, um, I don't want to say lack of empathy, but it's the lack of patience to sit down with students sometimes and go, here's what we mean.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard because, again, uh, you end up contradicting yourself, and,
Oh, do
all
you
of
get that
that.
all the time, where you have a
Oh,
student
yeah.
who comes in and is like, but you told me to put black there, or you told me to put a blue sky. And,
Yeah.
and they're like, well, yeah, it doesn't work now.
Yeah.
You did it
Yeah.
wrong.
In fact, I had a colleague who, we were talking about, how to structure a class, and it was because I was teaching a beginning painting class,
Yeah.
and it was for fine art students. And I was like, how do you approach it? And he's like, I do this. He's like, I want to keep them constantly off balance. He said, so I will talk and give them an assignment and show them work that sort of fits a certain aesthetic, and then tell them this is the way it is. And he said, then the very next assignment, I do the opposite of what we just did,
Mm,
where I give them a whole new set of rules and basically contradict
everything.
the
Yeah.
everything. And he said, it's kind of interesting because then what happens is students will either they'll reject, they'll be like, oh, well, I hate this, I'm never going to make another one of these. Or they'll say, oh, that's interesting, like now I have to think about like the rules and the regulations of the assignment and how it works, right? Just like the mechanics of making the work that I never thought about
Yeah.
before. I always,
Makes
like you
sense.
were saying, it's like the technical stuff was the important stuff.
We had a teacher who I don't know as it would fly all that well now because of accommodations and other things that are in the class. But what he used to do was give an assignment. Let's say it's a week-long assignment, and then over the weekend he would write to the students and say, "Scratch that. Here's the new thing you have to do. It's due on the same day." And basically,
Yeah.
all the work they had done needed to be changed. And the whole point of it
Wow.
was like you have to be willing to adapt and think on the fly and whatnot.
Yeah.
But like there's students now who like need the time and whatnot. But I still like the idea of that. Like, okay, I told you to do one thing, and now I'm telling you to do something completely different the next day.
Yeah.
Situation, not just in the like how you think about it, but literally the assignment has shifted in
Yeah.
front of your face. It's mean. I understand students didn't like it, but it did have a purpose.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, wait, did someone? Oh, okay. That idea of adaptability is really what we're talking about in the sense of like,
Hmm.
being able to move and to ebb and flow into um, new ways of thinking and whatnot, which is, I think, fundamental not just for being an illustrator, but being an artist. I mean, it sounds to me like we have, even though we went to different schools, that are the the thought process is relatively similar, and like
Yeah.
um, you need to break from formality, you need to think for yourself, and not just do what's expected. Like I'd
Right.
much rather have a student fail or a mentee fail or whatnot with the idea that somehow what they did was trying something new. Like it's cooler to me that you failed trying something than it is that you succeeded doing something you already know.
Oh yeah. 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 Absolutely. In fact, there's that moment where you have a student who comes in from left field with something, and you're like, whoa. And you're like, you missed like three of the marks that I'm asking for, but this thing is so cool, like I can't like ignore how
Yeah.
good it is,
Yeah.
you
But
know.
I don't want you to, yeah. And it's this, okay, you didn't complete the assignment. So, but here's how you could turn it into the assignment, or here's how you could adapt it
Yeah.
slightly and make that work. Um, One of the things I used to tell students when I first walked in to the room on like some of the early classes was that if they asked me to saw through something in the room, like a table in the room, I could do it without a saw. And they'd
Mm,
all look at me and I'd go, okay, well, here's how I do it. You see that vent up there? What I do is I take that down and I'd bend it because the metal's thin enough, and I'd eventually get a serrated edge. And then I could sit there and hack at it. It might take me a week to do it, but I can cut through that table with something I find in this room. And the idea is to like get them to go, oh, this is not a like how do I put this? This is, you are allowed to think outside the box, essentially. Like,
yeah.
don't ever
Yeah.
limit yourself and go, it's not feasible because I don't know how to do it. Find
Yeah.
a way. And that was the thing that I learned in art school more so than anything else. Like my art school, the work that I show the students at the end of the year, like when they're seniors, I show them my portfolio, and it's bad. It
Yeah.
is rough. I don't know what yours look like, but man,
uh,
mine was not good.
I've done multiple purges where it's so cathartic to like break the paintings and stick them in the trash can, so no one has a record of the crappy work I did.
Oh no, I keep it to show them, and then I go, think of how much better off you are than I am, because
Oh
your work
yeah.
is so much better. I mean, I had stuff like there's an image, and I'll see if I can find it at some point to show you. But in my senior show, and if there's any seniors listening to this, please don't tell anybody the story because I saved this for a fun moment in class. But I showed at RISD, we had a gallery. There was this tiny little gallery that had 2 people show per show, and you had a
Hmm.
week.
Hmm.
And you got to pair up with whoever you wanted to pair up with. You just sort of found someone like, okay, we're going to show together. And I showed with this amazing artist. Her name's Erica Wolf, although she's also Erica Van Varick now. But she was doing all this really cute kidlit art, raccoons and bears and
Yeah.
beautifully rendered, etc. And then on my side, I had some like comics and things of the sort. But one of the pieces I have was these bald-headed obese men sitting on stumps shooting milk out of their nipples. Okay,
Which
so I can find,
probably, that sounds like editorial work from 90s. Yeah.
yeah, if I can find this image, I will post it at some point. But it's just this like, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't care. I was just making work that just seemed fun to make, and like I look at it now and I go, yeah, it didn't make any sense, the images that I made, but I understand, like, my mentality was the same mentality. Like,
Yeah.
would I be willing to draw something like that now? Maybe not that image, but I'd like to do something that's as weird as that now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm willing to sort of like chalk that up to the idea that I mean, okay, I'll tell this story too. This is a fun story for anybody that cares. So we also, for that show, this will explain a lot of sort of who I am. For that show, we had to make our own promotion. So like when you had a show at school or anything of the sort, did you make promotion for it?
Oh, you had to do like little cards or something and put on
Yeah.
all the bulletin boards or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So Erica made some beautiful little postcards that were like pictures of her bears and things of the sort. Okay, here we go. Get ready.
You're
So,
recording this, right? This will be
yes, no, this is
saved.
recorded. Someone out there will hear this and go, that makes sense. Or I remember that, if they know me from that era. Over the summer, I worked at the like student village, like student life office. And the head of the student life had this like 9-year-old girl, maybe 8-year-old girl that would come in on the summer to hang out with them. And we found out that she had a boxer dog. And so my friend and I who worked there found this giant stuffed animal boxer dog that we bought. And we took photos of ourselves in masks. I in a luchador mask, my friend in a gorilla mask, shirtless, holding the dog hostage
Oh my
with
gosh.
8 guns, and made a ransom note and left it on the student life office director's desk saying, for your daughter. And so it was all just like us goofing around because the director was a fun guy too. He was like, he got it. He understood what we were doing. But I had these photos sitting around all year and I'm like, I got to do something with them. And so I decided to cut out my face in the luchador mask and call myself the Wedginator, like a wrestling name, the Wedginator. And what I did was I was like, oh, I'll make postage that says come to my show or be wedged, or or the Wedginator will get you. And already it's already going off the rails a little.
Yeah.
And then someone said, oh, that'd be funny if you put them on underwear. And so your ad is this underwear with your face on the back that says come to my show or else. The Wedginator, blah, 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 here's the address and here's the time.
Oh
And so
my
I was like,
gosh.
okay, yeah, I love it. So I went and got some iron-ons and I got all ready to make these underwear. And so I went out to the store to buy underwear to iron on these stupid little images. And I was like, okay, let me go buy some. And I went and bought packs of underwear, but the underwear was so expensive that I had to adapt. So what I bought was little kids' underwear. So I bought little boys' tighty whiteys that are probably like 6-year-old boy underwear.
Oh no.
And on the back of them, I put my face that says, "Come to my show or else." The
Oh,
Wedgenator requests it. And I put them in I didn't want to just hand them out. So I put them in Ziploc baggies for some reason. And that's what I,
it's like
oh,
getting worse and worse.
I know. And that's what I handed people for this show,
Oh my
saying,
gosh,
like, come to my
that is
show.
so funny.
And Erica, at the meantime, has these beautiful postcards with cute little animals on it that are highly rendered and like realistic. And I'm giving out little boys' underwear with my face on the back of it,
Oh
everybody.
my gosh.
And the sad part is, I don't have any more of them. I have friends that kept them because they were so like wrong. Like, I just
Yeah.
didn't know at the time that like this is coming across the wrong way. Someone eventually said, like, "Why are these little boys' underwear?" And I'm like, "Uh-oh." Uh, but it it makes a story.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but
No.
I want students to do that kind of weird stuff. And
Yeah.
like they don't take
Yeah.
that risk. Yes, it was a risk. Yes, it probably got me on some government watch list, but it's still
Oh my
like
gosh, that's so
good story.
funny. That is so funny. Yes, absolutely. And I we're running into a problem. I hope none of these students are watching. We're running into a problem where I think students get like in their head that their capstone project should seem like, and it's, I'm sure it's partially our fault too. Like they think, oh, it's got to be a serious thing. I should make paintings.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, maybe if you're a painter,
Or that
and I,
it has to be
yeah,
like eyebrow. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And sometimes I walk into students and I'm like, why are they making this work? Because this stuff that they do over here is so like mind-boggling and amazing, and like, am I not communicating? I mean, this is the things that keep me up at night. Am I not communicating enough to them where they can understand?
Instagram just quit on me. So I'm going to get our guest back in here in a second. So, Christopher, if you are watching this, I'm going to put a Ask Us Anything back in here. Yeah. And see if we can get folks back in. I just noticed all of a sudden the sound dropped, and so I don't know what happened. So here, let me get... give me 1 second, everybody. There we go. So, Christopher, I have sent a new invite. Feel free to join back in when you get a chance.
Okay, we're back.
There we go. We're back. I don't know what happened, but for whatever reason,
It just said your live stream has ended. So
yeah, I don't know if like my phone fritzed out or something, but for whatever reason, what was it? Oh, I was talking about grading there, like
oh yeah,
grading on progress, and then also grading on, so like a student who starts out low and and progresses further down the line is more important to me than someone who's very successful right from the get-go. But
yeah,
I also think assessment is such a good thing. And you mentioned that idea of like reading and writing. I still, to this day, I had this student who was really struggling with their artwork and like what to do. And they thought they were failing. They were going to have to start over. They were really upset. And I said, well, why don't you write about what happened? And they started to write. And within, half an hour of trying to write, I said, like, do a 1-page essay about what happened, where the struggles were, etc. And by the time that they had finished writing that, they were already back to their piece and figured out how to solve it. And
wow.
I was like, okay, to me, that essay is more important than the actual artwork at that point.
Oh yeah,
Because it meant, that you were able to get past this hurdle or whatever was in front of them. And so like, I almost didn't grade them on the artwork at that point. I graded them on their ability to overcome. And like, that's hard to put into a rubric. That's hard to put in those things. And so like, it's hard to explain to a dean sometimes like, oh, this is why I did that. But,
right.
okay. Off of school talk.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like maybe people have questions. I don't know. But you're right. Get two educators together, and what are they going to talk about?
Well, I don't think it's even like school talking about like how to become a better artist and how to like, learning how to assess yourself is good no matter whether you're a new or not. But I still think the idea of like understanding your capabilities is important at any age. Anyways, okay. So what I did want to ask, sort of, and this is a little side tangential thing.
Uh-huh.
I like to have conversations also about non-art related things or things that you do outside of art. Like when you mentioned the punk music and stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, let's go there.
Yeah.
But I also want to find out a little bit about sort of like, you're out in Utah. There are other artists out there. And I know that a lot of people that live out there like it because of the environment.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
The world that is around. Are you an outdoorsy person?
You know what? I wish I was. I was thinking, since we are beginning of the year, and it's like, oh, I should, put together my list of things to do. I have 2 dogs, which I regularly walk. I love going outside and walking. And I thought, I should probably, get outside and get a muddy. And I live within 10 minutes of a complex trail system that I could go, hiking, mountain biking, within minutes of my home. I got into biking this summer, and have enjoyed that.
You bike with Leo?
No, I look at his stuff and he's serious. I'm like, I haven't biked for a long time.
You got a
And
banana
so,
seat bike?
I wish. Yes, a Sting, the Schwinn Stingray with the. That's what I had as a kid. With the bananas, the sparkly banana seat, and the flag on the back, and the sissy bar. Yep. And the tassels on the handlebars.
Wait, what, the sissy bar? Is that the bar that goes up in the back?
Yep.
Like behind you?
So,
okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I forgot that's the name of it. So.
Yeah, and it had kind of the ape hanger handlebars. That like the stem is really low, and so the handlebars like go up high, so they're almost level with your head.
Oh,
And
yeah. Like
it was a cool
rider.
bike. Yeah, I loved that bike as a kid. And in fact, some years ago, I was like, I wonder if I can find one. I would love to get one, but I thought I'd look so ridiculous, riding around on it. So I got a bike, and there's a highway that they built not too far from my house, that in order to build it, I think there was a push to do like green space, and it runs along sort of wetlands. And so I love going out there and riding my bike back and forth, and I can see, all sorts of like really amazing birds. And so that I got into a little bit, not as much as I like it, though I think I'm gonna, probably fix that this year. And I love going on walks. I have adult children. I have a son who works in advertising, for a national or international agency, but he is works from home, um, and like his office I think is out of San Francisco, but he works from home, and so we do a lot with them. So we do a lot of family stuff on the weekends. People over for dinner, that kind of stuff. A lot of pet stuff, a lot of walking dogs. And my commute is horrendous. I have an hour commute, which kind of stinks. So I do spend too much time in the car. And, right now, because I've got so many books lined up, I'm like, I go to work, teach, office work, whatever. And then on the days when I'm not teaching, I'm hunkered down trying to get books.
Yeah, get it done.
Done. And, I'm on deadline. I had sketches due that we just went over just before the holiday that I've got a bunch of redos. That I'm working on happily. It's kind of it's going to be a really fun book, but there's the stress of like, oh, I've got to get that, going. I like to cook. I actually really like to cook. So I'm usually cooking dinner. My wife works as a social worker at a hospital. So so she's, she comes home like on the days that when I'm driving home, when I've got full days, she's got full days, we kind of arrive home together. But the other days when I'm home, I usually cook dinner and stuff like that, which I really like.
Yeah.
I like to cook. So
Is she? I assume that she comes home late then, if she's like a social worker dealing with. Like,
no, she works normal hours, but by the time she's done, if it's healthcare, so like sometimes it's get it till the work is done, not because you've got a patient sitting there. It's not like, all right, well, see you guys later till tomorrow.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
she's got to like help with whatever is going on. So
Um, with I know you said that you like to cook. Now I'm going to
yeah.
ask a follow-up question. Are you a good cook?
I grew up. Okay, yeah, good. Yes, I am a good cook. Although
Okay.
I do have my I do have my tater tot casserole, which that's not haute cuisine. There, that's it's a it's like a step up from hamburger helper. But I do like Thanksgiving. I love cooking the turkey, and Christmas I love cooking the ham and making the stuffing and I come from a house where my mom did not cook. She grew up as a military brat. And when she married my dad, she realized that her mother-in-law was a good cook. And so she kind of took it as a goal to become a good cook. And that just kind of permeated. Like I grew up in a house where that was family time, was you sat down to evening meal
Yeah.
and ate together. And it was always good. Like my dad can cook. And so it was just kind of expected, which is different than my wife's family. She grew up in a house with a lot of kids. They adopted 4 children and then had 6 of their own. So they had like 10 kids in the house, which is crazy. And
So they
so it
make
was,
casseroles all the time.
yeah. So it was they have like meals that are lovingly called like Mexican yuck and chili Eddie, which chili Eddie's actually kind of good. But
Wait, what is Mexican yuck?
it was kind of like having
Stop
it
that.
was sort of
Not.
like, yeah, it kind of reminded me of like, have you ever had like 7-layer dip, where it's
Yeah.
like refilled beans? Yeah, it was kind of like that, and it's kind of like pan enchiladas sort of mixed together. That's
Oh,
what it kind of reminded me of. It was a Mexican casserole,
yeah. I used to do like a layered enchilada casserole thing like that every once in a
Yeah,
while. Whereas
yeah,
it's like a
absolutely.
lasagna, like a
Uh-huh.
Mexican lasagna.
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep, yep. So and I'm a food snob. My wife's like, "You're a food snob," and it's true. I am a food snob. So like, I'm always critiquing. I have to be really careful, and I fail at it always. Because I'm like, this could, what this could use a little bit of this. Yeah, and I'm always like, that's it. I'm not cooking.
Or,
And my siblings are the same way. Like my brother cooks in his home. Um, and my sister's an excellent cook too. So it's
when you
just
say
kind
you're
of
a food snob, are you to the point where like not only does it need like more salt, but it needs like, well, this needs this specific type of salt,
oh
like oh, this would do better
no,
with kosher salt versus just table salt, or
maybe sometimes there's certain foods that are absolutely yes like that.
yeah,
Um, and I'm sure it ruins the experience for everybody because I'm like, oh, what we could do, is this and it's and it's I always say, look, nothing if not critical, like that's how I'm wired, and I need to fix that. But
well, that's so. I don't know if this relates, but 100%. But I remember going to a movie down in New Jersey or something like that when my parents lived down there, and the we went and saw some. I don't remember what the movie was, but we went and saw some movie, and we came out of it. And my wife and I, we worked in animation for a while, and we were just having a critique of like sort of what we thought of the movie. And my mom immediately just goes, "Can you ever like anything?"
oh
And it
yeah,
was this like, like how we went to this trouble of taking you guys to a movie, and it's like, no, we liked it.
but it's just after going to art school and me working in art school and whatnot, like you just critique, and it's not meant to be bad. It's not meant to say that, you know, like you didn't like it or anything of the sort, but it's just ingrained in us at a point wherein like it's hard to partake in anything without sort of taking a moment and going like, yeah, it could be better.
Yeah, yeah. No, we were trying to pick a movie last night and to watch because we're old farts, so it's like staying out till whatever. We just didn't have plans, and so we thought, oh, let's watch a movie. And the whole time I'm like trying really hard, and I'm like, oh, it's getting really wordy here, or oh, like, oh, I don't understand, like, what is this? And my wife's just like, can you just be quiet and try to show it? I'm like, I don't know if I can. I don't
What
know if I
movie was it you
can.
watched?
Oh, what did we watch? It was my wife picked it. It was Sinners,
Oh,
which
okay.
I didn't know anything about it. She was like, "This looks interesting." We thought it was one thing. I don't know if we read the whole description, and it turns into a horror movie like halfway
Yes.
through.
Yep.
And then we were like, "What the heck?" And my wife just starts laughing, and we're just like, "What the?" And then I kept, but the whole time I'm like, now why is this sort of initial vampire? Why is he Irish? I kept like like I'm doing that, and I'm just like, I can't just like let this go. Like, why is he Irish, and why are they singing Irish jigs and
Yep.
like the whole time? And I'm thinking, I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm ruined. I'm ruined.
Yeah, no, that's I think that's commonplace. I mean, my wife and I, like there's shows that we watch because they are good, and there's shows that we watch because they're bad. And when it's a bad one, we talk a lot.
Yeah,
Uh,
I see your wife's post like where she like you guys are watching it, and it's almost like Mystery Science Theater 2000 where
yes.
she's doing commentary, and it's so hilarious.
Yeah,
Whenever I see her little reels, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to watch these, and they
we
are
were
funny.
watching
She's
90 Day Fiance. We've been
oh
on
yes,
that, which is an awful group of people in general. But it's just hard not to sit there and yell back at the screen like, you people are idiots. What are you
yes.
doing? And
My kids love the I have a daughter-in-law who loves Below Deck
mhm.
and the like Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And we were over there, and she's like, sit down and watch it with me. And I was like, okay. And I sat down, and I'm like, telling my daughter like, why are you watching this? Like, what are you watching? What is going on? Like, it was driving me crazy. And I thought, oh, it'd be kind of fun if you were just critiquing the whole time. That might be
Yeah.
really fun,
Oh
actually.
no, it's we're not watching it because we think they're good people. Like there was a show that's actually has me. I just thought of a question for you, a very specific question. But we were watching what is it? The Normal Lives of Mormon Wives, or the
Oh,
something
the Secret Lives of
Secret
Mormon
Lives of
Wives.
Mormon
Oh,
Wives.
Mormon Housewives.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
it's very specific. Yeah.
And it's very
Oh,
trashy, and
it's so trashy.
I don't know a ton about Mormonism or anything of the sort, minus that my name is associated with it.
That's right, Mark Hoffman. That's right.
Yes.
A guy who, yeah, he
Yeah.
was a famous. What did he do? He did forgeries and then sold them to the LDS Church,
And
and
then blew up
and
people.
yeah, because people were figuring it out, and so he started to off people,
Yeah.
and then blew like he got caught because one blew up in the car with him as he was driving to deliver it to somebody's house. So
My
pretty crazy. There's a good documentary on Netflix about
yes,
it,
there is.
actually.
That's weird to watch when they're saying Mark Hoffman over and over again on that.
That's right.
In fact, I had a student just the other day say at the end of the semester, it's like, did you know they're saying bad things about you on the library site? And I'm like, what library site? And they said it was some library that was in their town or whatever. And I looked it up, and it just pulls information on authors from Google.
No,
And
no.
the top hit, like it doesn't have my spelling right, so that's not, that's
Yeah.
to be known, but it pulled that up. And then also there's a Mark Hoffman, a sex offender, that
Oh
shows.
no,
Those are like before my
no.
name. But anyways, so here's
I
my
don't have that
question.
problem. There's nobody. Well, there are Chris Thornocks, but anyway,
Yeah, you don't have the same problem, trust me.
no.
Uh, My question is, since you're out there, are there really like soda shops like everywhere? Where
Oh,
like it's like a
oh,
coffee shop but a soda shop?
oh, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah. Look, don't get me started about the drama. There was one. There's the original, which is like this company called Swig, and
Yes,
yeah, you
that's
go in and it's like these old. Uh, it's like when you were a kid and could go to the drugstore, and you could get like Iron Port, or you could get Brown Cow, which was like right like cola with milk or whatever.
yeah,
But but you can get them in 44 ounce.
yeah, gigantic.
Yeah, like I drank one today. And they put all these things like, I got Diet Dr. Pepper with coconut cream and pineapple puree and like all this stuff. And they have funny names for them. Well, like, yeah, it's on every corner. It's like coffee shops in Seattle, it's soda
But
shops in Utah.
are there coffee
Yeah.
shops too,
There
or
are. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
but just
yeah.
not at the same extent as soda shops? And then
There are, but the soda shop is, I think, particularly it's a particular thing for Utah. It's like Utah, Southern Idaho, Northern Arizona.
interesting. Okay, and then do they sell stuff besides soda?
Yes, so you can get these like really thick, soft sugar cookies with like I swear the icing on the top is like a half-inch thick. um, and they'll sell like popcorn. Some of the companies sell like pretzel bites, or little things like that, little cookies. Yeah, yeah, it's kind of over the top.
Okay, I have a follow-up question. And this is the first when I watched that show, this is the first thing that popped in my mind was how's the dentist industry
Oh,
there? And
good. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
like
you
the
want to
amount
you
of
want to make
like
a lot of
soda.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's crazy. When my son was a freshman in college, he dated a girl that worked at one of these places. And I remember we would go, say hi to her or whatever
Yeah.
when we were in town. And I remember her talking about how there were people that were coming in twice and three times a day to
For
get
reals.
for
Yeah.
refills. And I was like, oh my gosh. And she's like, yep. And she said, we knew them by name and we knew what they ordered. So it was kind of like the bar, where can I get you the regular, whatever. And I just thought, "Oh, it's just so funny that it's soda, but yeah,
They
it was,
they know them by the count of how many teeth they have in the end of
yeah,
how much
seriously.
sugar intake. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, I like a
yeah,
soda, but that's the reason why I ask like what else do they have is because I'm used to like fast food joints have soda, but soda is not the main draw in the
right. Yeah,
location. And it sounds to me like in
that's
this
all they
instance, soda
do.
is the draw.
Yep,
Or I mean,
yep.
I guess soda and a place to go is the draw, but still.
Yeah, but most of them, like where you see the line is it's usually people in big SUVs. And it's a drive-through, and so people will just drive through to get their soda, and so they've got like some young gal standing outside in the freezing cold, taking your order, and then they talk it into the inside. It's sort of like going to Chick-fil-A or whatever, and
Yeah.
then you pull up and pay your. They're also kind of pricey. I mean, for a 44-ounce drink, it's like $3.50 or $4, so it's not cheap. Um, but people love their soda here. It is a thing.
44 ounce though, that's huge.
Yeah, it's like the big gulp, if you
Yeah.
go to 7-Eleven, it's the
Yeah.
big gulp size.
I
Yeah,
just
I call them
remember watching that
bladder
show. I remember
busters.
that swig. They would go to swig, and I
Oh
was like,
yeah.
"Is this like a thing?" It's just not a thing around here. I mean, we have Dunkin' Donuts everywhere, so it's not like we can
Yeah.
really complain of any sort and be like, "I can't believe you have soda shops," because
Right, right.
literally the corner around here is a Dunkin' Donuts. So
Dunkin' Donuts for you get your cruller and your
yeah. Oh,
your coffee.
they don't even like donuts is not their mainstay anymore. That's
Oh
all
wow.
coffee. They
Wow.
got rid of the donuts part, so now it's just called dunks. in a lot of places.
What's blowing up here now are the Dutch Bros. Like
What's
that's
the Dutch
becoming a
Bros?
thing. And Dutch Bros is like a drive-through coffee. It's like Dunkin' Donuts,
Okay.
but it's drive-through drinks, and they do both soda and coffee, right? So you can go get your iced coffee, or you can go get your soda or whatever. I mean, I guess they're let's get every crowd.
Yeah, get your fix. Get
That's
your
right.
fix.
Get your fix.
It's a very unique. See, these are the
It
things where like,
is.
this is
Yeah.
this is when I have someone on that's from a foreign country. It's like I want to know about their country. Like
Yeah.
I don't expect them to educate me on everything, but there's like nuances there that
Well, here's some weird things about Utah. So I'll give you a little Utahisms. So our state food is Jello,
really.
which yeah, it's kind of strange, but Jello
Okay.
dessert is the state food. The these are the things that I always scratch my head like, is this really what our legislature is doing? The state cooking utensil is the Dutch oven, right?
Okay.
Because this is we're a Western state that was um, populated by immigrants. So Dutch oven cooking is a big thing here. I was telling somebody the other day, they couldn't believe this. Our state bird is the California gull, the seagull, which seems really strange, but we have basically the remnants of an inland sea. The Great Salt Lake is, what used
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
Lake
yeah,
Bonneville, and it's a salty body of water. In fact, the salinity is so high, and it's gotten even worse recently. You can float in it if you dare swim in it. Um, but it's so high that like you can go out and get in your swim trunks and float around in the Great Salt Lake. But it's drying up quickly because of probably global warming. This year we haven't had any snow to speak of. Like I usually should have shoveled my driveway several times by this time of year, and I have not had any snow at my home. And we are, we're pretty high up.
yeah.
We're hoping to get some this next week, but it was like 60 degrees a week and a half ago,
Oh no,
which is weird.
we've been in like the 20s basically recently, and we've gotten snow, and not a lot, but we've gotten snow. But um, I mean, I grew up in Minnesota, and so
Oh,
like
yeah.
we had snow. Like when you mentioned the casserole, the tater tot
Dutch
casserole,
oven? Oh yeah,
that,
tater tot casserole.
that's a Minnesota thing for sure. So there's probably a lot
Yeah.
of crossover, honestly, because of Utah and like the Dutch oven. And did
Uh-huh.
they did you grow up where they had like pannenkoeken? Did they ever have pannenkoeken there?
Oh no, but I know what that is because there are a lot of that's a Dutch thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a restaurant that I mean, a pannenkoeken is like
Oh,
it's a Dutch oven baby, or it's a Dutch pancake that like
okay.
fluffs
So
up.
yeah, we call them German pancakes here,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
and there are like panakokens that aren't they like a little? Oh no, those are edelskivers, a little round, like donut or not donuts, but they're like a little pancake, but they're round, and you have to have a special pan. And those are like Swedish. We have a lot of like Utah was built, like well, the probably where you're from. There's probably more like Germans, Poles, Russians, right? Ukrainians,
yeah,
like.
yep.
And where I'm from, there's a lot of English, Swedish, um, uh, Swiss, yeah, like mainly like people that settled here. Like my ancestors who came and ended up settling southern Idaho were from England, so
Okay.
there's a lot of English sort of stuff.
Pannenkoekens are a thing that like there was a restaurant that
Okay.
you mentioned the Dutch oven aspect. It was a restaurant where they'd run out and they'd yell out pannenkoeken
Oh,
because it would deflate so fast. It's a German pancake. It's the same thing.
yeah, yeah.
But it would deflate so fast, so they'd want to get to your table in enough time. So they'd yell out pannenkoeken, and everybody was supposed to get out of the way. Uh,
Oh, how
I
funny.
just I didn't know if that was like a Minnesota thing, or if that's just a like if there was Dutch stuff there, that there would be a bit of that shows up.
Yeah,
Uh,
my daughter's dating a young man whose like grandmother's like from the Netherlands, and Yeah, it's it's one step removed from the old country.
Did she wear like a cute little bonnet and like
Good question. Wooden shoes.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You can tell that she's coming from miles away because of the clap.
yeah, yeah.
Um, is there with the idea of sort of location, is there a lot like thinking of Utah, Salt Lake City, Provo, all that kind of stuff? To me, that feels out there. Of course, I'm
Hmm.
living, near New York or Boston or
Hmm.
like East Coast kind of thing. But I'm wondering, is there a big like art scene there? Because obviously BYU has, I assume there's
Yeah,
some crossover
yeah,
there or some.
yeah. They've got an excellent museum. The University of Utah has a pretty good museum. Um, University where I teach just was a couple of years ago was like a family donated their mansion and they've turned it into a museum. So right now there's like a Alphonse Mucha show traveling
Ooh,
exhibit, which I need to get over to. Um, and so there's stuff to see, but it I went to school in LA and within an hour I could be at multiple world-class museums and there was the Disney Music Center and like everything was world class. And here it's just not enough people to sort of
support. Yeah.
um yeah to support that yet. But I mean we're growing like crazy. And so I'm sure stuff like that'll get funded at some point. But we have world class like world class ballet and our like symphony is always had like really notable like the guy that used to run the Boston Pops also did was a was the conductor at the symphony here in Utah. So there is some of that, but it's a struggle because if you just have to wait, hope that it comes through. And I think people move here for the outdoor life, to be
Yeah.
honest. It's like within an hour of my home, I could probably be at 5 or 6 different ski resorts, and be skiing. And so there's a lot of that kind of
Can you
opportunity. And
can you see the mountains out your window kind of situation?
I can, yeah, not right now because it's dark, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's
absolutely,
like I
yeah,
lived in Colorado for a little bit, and we went out there in the fall, and I remember being able to see the mountains, but I did not realize how close we were to the mountains where we lived
yeah,
outside of
yeah,
Denver. And like if you were on the right hill, it was just beautiful. It was mountains there, and like
yeah,
here we don't get that, but we do have the ocean, so it's a like you pick and choose your battles kind of
yeah.
situation.
When I drive to work, so I actually live about an hour away from the university that I teach at, and the mountains where I live, I see what are called foothills. So, and they're pretty close, but they're not thousands and thousands of feet up.
Yeah.
Um, but when I drive down to sort of Provo, Orem area, which is Utah County, south of me, I get off the freeway and there are mountains that are like right up to the city, and there's no foothills between you and the mountains. So they just like go straight up. And on the right days, it is the most breathtaking. Like I pull into work, into the parking lot and I can see to the other side of the city and just these gorgeous mountains with the sun coming up behind them. And I just think, whoa, like not everybody gets this.
Yeah. That's the school that I teach at. 3 blocks down the road is the ocean, and
Oh, yeah.
and
See,
so it's
awesome.
it's it's a beach, and they go like, oh, the school has a beach, but it's it's rocky. It's not like
Yeah, yeah,
it's not like Bermuda or something of the sort. But
right.
it's I don't take advantage of it as much as I should. Let's put it that way. But I'm also I'm a pale redhead, and so the beach is generally not my friend. Let's put it
Yeah,
that way.
yeah. You gotta wear lots of layers and hats and
Yes, I
uh,
would look better. I would look better in
sunblock.
yeah during the
Yeah,
winter. Um,
yeah.
but
No, I like even Leo, when I had him on, he was talking about the ease of getting out and
Yeah.
exploring, and like that same thing where it's just like you want to go out in nature, you just walk out your door kind of situation.
Yeah. I there's an island in the middle of the Great Salt Lake that I can drive to. It takes me about 40 minutes to get there. Um, that is is kind of amazing. It's kind of it's kind of a weird, it's almost deserty, low scrub, but there's like bison wandering around on it. And
Hmm.
like there are like all these biking trails and hiking trails. And I'm like, this is 40 minutes from my house. It's kind of amazing. And then if I go the opposite direction, if I drive 5 hours, I can be in southern Utah, Red Rock country, and I can be in Moab, and Arches National Park, or any of these, Zion National Park, 6 hours away. And it's I think Utah has the most national parks within its boundaries. Um, and it's amazing. Like it's just absolutely amazing. So like when my son was in Boy Scouts, we could go to some really cool, campgrounds and just see really cool stuff.
Yeah, that's yeah, I assume there's a lot of space too, just in general. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
looking at
Everything's far, far away.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the hour drive, uh, the equivalent of, is it an hour drive through like tons of traffic, or is it?
Yeah. Well, it's 50 miles away. And so and my schedule is such that I usually miss the traffic unless there's an accident on the freeway. And there really is only one freeway for me to take. So
I was gonna
so
say
that's a problem.
I got about an hour and 10, something like that, to get to my school, but it's only like 20 miles away. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
all everybody's driving to Boston, and so it's there's no
Mm,
easy way around. I mean, I take back roads, but it's clogged up with people driving to
I,
the city for the most part. Um, but I am jealous of those spaces. Like when we were out in Colorado, I was like, man, I could move back here.
oh
But
yeah. I anytime we travel, I have my parents settled in New Mexico, and they're in like this far southwest corner of New Mexico in this small town. And I like going to visit, like like it takes forever to get there. It's like a 10-12 hour drive. But like you travel through like the Navajo or Dene reservation, and you travel through like the Coronado National Forest, and you get down there, and like all the houses are spaced really far apart, and I'm just like, man, this is the life. Like no traffic, everybody drives slow, it's quiet, you can hear the wind blow. There's like wild animals coming up to your house. I'm just like, yeah, this is cool.
we're I'm actually leaving tomorrow on a plane to go down to Tennessee, and my brother is at my parents' house, and it's a long drive for him, and we need to sort of help him drive
Hmm.
for some odds and ends that I won't get into, but um, and so we're going to drive from Tennessee to Texas,
Oh
and
wow.
I've driven through like Oklahoma and whatnot, but like to go see that open sprawl of like
Yeah.
Arkansas, and it's just everything's so compacted on the East Coast. There's not really a ton of room
Yeah.
to play around and see expanse. And
Yeah.
so,
My daughter-in-law's from just outside of Dallas, and when she and my son were dating, they drove from Utah to Texas. And I remember my son saying, we drove for a day and we never left Texas.
yep, yep.
He was like, and he's like, it was all, it's that West Texas is just flat, and it's just miles and miles of flat land. And I
I
was like,
remember
ooh.
we were moving my parents down to Texas. They after I graduated high school, um, my parents moved down to Texas for my dad's job, and so my brother, my mom, and I all sort of caravanned down there with different cars, and I remember there was exits that would say, like, this is the last stop to get gas for the next 100-something miles.
Mm,
And it's like, oh, okay. Like,
yeah.
you have to make some
When
decisions in that kind of
yeah.
expanse. And when we got down to Texas, I remember there were just stretches of road that, like, you got to drive so fast because it was basically all just like truckers and
hmm
and that was it. There
Yeah.
was a lot of excess on the road,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. My dad's always like when there's a city Shiprock, and he's like when you get to Shiprock, he's like between Shiprock and here, if you're going, like as every good dad, he's like if you take this route and this, and
yeah,
he's like if you're going from Shiprock, he's like gas up there because there's no gas for 300 miles, and you're like, oh, okay.
I'm not sure I want to
I'll
go
do
that way.
that. Yeah, I'm like, oh, I hope. Did I bring my car that's got good gas mileage?
Like, if you break down in a situation like that, like, what do you do? Like, if I
I
break
know.
down, like, I have AAA. This is where we get into the weird conversations that have nothing to do with it. So I have
Nothing to do
AAA,
with art.
but it's like
Yeah,
if my car breaks down, it'd take maybe a half an hour for AAA to get there and maybe another half an hour to get home, kind of situation.
yeah, yeah,
But like in that environment, if you break down, you are broken down.
yeah.
You're like,
No, in fact, we went to my parents a couple years ago, and on the trip, we had started a little bit later, and we were trying to do it, I think, in one day, if I remember right, or maybe we did it in 2 days, but we got started late. Anyway, we're driving through the Coronado National Forest at night, and it's like a dark sky place. Like there's no
yeah, there's no ambient light.
and winding roads, middle of the night, and like we came across so many herds of elk, and they were just like in the middle of the road, just like plopped down in the middle of the road, and like I'd have to drive around them; they wouldn't move. And I thought, man, if I came around the corner and hit one of those guys, I'd be stuck.
Yep.
Like I'd be stuck. Because there's no one. We were the only ones out there. There was no one else out there.
There was when we were coming back, we went to Ireland for a school trip thing that I was part of, and on the way back to the airport, we were all on this bus, and as we got on, I don't know if you've ever been to Ireland,
No.
but the roads are very narrow to the point wherein
Oh,
like a single car can pass in certain areas, and even at that, you're like touching brush on the side of the road. Um,
mm,
and so we were at this section of the road where like the bus driver just stops, and we're like, what's going on? And we look up front, and it was just cows had gotten out of their pasture and were blocking up the road. And it's like, there's no way to get around them. There was
yeah.
people trying to call the farmer who owned the cows to see if he could come out and get them off the road. And eventually, I mean, we were going to be late to the airport if we didn't move. And eventually they got hold of somebody, like a friend of the family, that could come move the cows. But it
Oh,
was
how
this
funny.
like, sudden stop that we're all like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And we all laughed about it because we weren't the ones driving, but it was still stressful for those of us in charge of the trip to
Oh, yeah.
a bunch of college age kids that we're responsible for stuck in another country because we missed their flight. Um, but no, I at some point I would like to go out to Utah or out to that area and
Yeah.
visit, but I
Yeah.
just don't know when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Um,
It's beautiful.
do you get out to like Society of Illustrator events or to?
You know, I kind of wanted to this year because I got into the original art
Yeah.
competition this year,
Yep.
but did not make the trip. But I that is a goal of mine, to come in. And I think what's nice about that show is a lot of the editors and art directors go. And so it'd be fun to be there opening night and to meet a bunch of people. They're just some illustrators that I just really love their work, and it'd be fun to rub shoulders and talk. And I have not been. I've been to New York, but I've never been to the society. So
Oh, it's
um,
tiny. It's a
yeah, it's a little teeny place, but it's just it's one of those like, oh, I've always heard about the
yeah.
Society of Illustrators.
Yeah, you got to go at least once
Um,
just to see it, but
don't expect it
Yeah.
to be like, if you're going to look at artwork, it might take you just a, half an hour to look at everything and then you're out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
one of the things that I need to look up again, and I mentioned it to I think it was Gordon C. James this
Hmm.
last or a couple weeks ago, is Icon is coming up in Baltimore
That's
uh,
right. At the
at Micah.
at Micah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
So I've been meaning to go to that for years, and so being that it's somewhat close, I may end up going to that
Yeah.
and see
I've
see
heard
of it.
heard
But
good things. I've heard good
yeah,
things.
no,
But
it's.
also, go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
Sorry. Well, I also want to go to Bologna. Go to
Hey, the
you
next
know what I
year.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that just looks like one of my former students teaches at BYU now, and she was posting stuff on her social media that I was just like, oh, curses. I want to go. Yeah.
My wife and I are we're on our 21st year of marriage, and we said if by our 25th anniversary we have not gone that year, we are going
Oh,
to
cool.
Bologna. So we'll make a trip to Italy, and we'll overlap of some sort with Bologna.
Yeah.
Just it has to happen because, like, same thing. It's like all the books that I really love. A lot of times, I mean, I love a lot of books, but I am at a point where I'm like, any book that is translated,
Yeah.
I'm like super into. Like, my wife bought me a book that's this beautiful book by I can't remember the illustrator off the top of my head, but it's David Kali, or however you say his name is, David, and then Cali, I think.
Okay.
Well-known author. Anyways, that I think is an Italian,
Hmm.
and so like I can't read it at all.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful, and so like I want to go to an event where like I'm mesmerized by the artwork,
Oh,
and
yeah.
sit there and go like, these are books I can't get at home. These are the books that are not everyday sort of like bookstore books, and so that is a goal to get out there. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of kidlit folks that want to go. The challenge is, from what I heard, is like getting housing because
Oh,
it
I'm
books up
sure.
so far in advance. But someday,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah. No, it would be awesome.
if you ever get out there and I'm out there at the same time, we'll go get some
We
cool
got
pasta dish together. And
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, you're talking to the foodie.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You got to go get the delicious pasta.
Well, they have Olive Gardens there, right?
Yeah, that's right. You can get what is I'm trying to think of Mike Birbiglia. Have you ever heard of his did you ever hear his spiel about how he's Italian, but his dad, would take them to Olive Garden and then try and pronounce the names of the dishes,
Mm-mm.
and and how pasta fagioli ended up being pasta fagioli. I mean, he would just die because his dad was mispronouncing all of the.
I think I actually have heard that now that you mentioned
Oh
that.
my gosh, it's so funny.
The no, I want to. There's a couple of uh, like I've been to Italy once, and I would love to go back, but I would probably make massacres like that of food names, and
Oh, I would.
I'm
I
not I'm
would.
not cultured enough to be able to do that on a regular basis. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But do you in town there though? Do you get a chance to like go to events and like is there a SCBWI or anything like that?
There's a Utah chapter. It's Utah Southern Idaho. I have not gone to an event. It's I should probably get out more, but I like come home and I'm like, do I want to do any more art stuff? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's sometimes I'm like, I think I'm gonna go do something else now, which is why, when you had was it Brian Biggs on, and he was and I started like following him and reading his stuff, and I noticed that he was a big biker, and I was like, yeah, like he gets out and does stuff that's not art related, and I thought that's probably really healthy, and I should probably do more of that, you know, where he's like going on, biking trips in Norway or whatever, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's what I should do, is like,
But
do
instead, you
stuff
sit
that's
in your studio like the rest of us.
yeah, and like obsess over, oh, is this composition working, or is it okay that I'm working digitally and traditionally?
Well, are
What are my
you?
thoughts on AI?
What? Okay, yeah. Don't get into that.
Yeah.
One of the ones that that's gotten me thinking recently is, and I've asked a few folks about this on here. Are you at a point where like the aches and pains of being an artist are hitting you?
Yeah, I get like I had to buy one of those massage guns
Oh, the
as I was
therapy.
yeah, as I was working on Brave, or no, I was working on the book that's coming out this summer. That's the pie book. There's something about pie. Like just my like between my neck and my shoulder would just get tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, oh, it's because I've been sitting here for how many hours,
Hmm.
like coloring and like leaning over. And I'm like, and my wife calls it my bed chart, but it's true. It's like, yeah, oh my gosh, I'm now feeling the effects of sitting for 6 hours straight. I can't do that. I got
Well,
to get up and
when you were painting before, were you at a seat or were you standing up when you painted?
I would mix it up, but I was working vertically, at my easel and not at a
Yeah.
desk. And so even when I tilt, like there's something about like I've got to rest my hand if I'm doing drawing work. But the painting work, you kind of sit up and you hold, your tool from the end. And when you're drawing, you're sort of like, what do they say, like choking up on the bat, like I'm really holding it much closer to the surface.
Yeah.
So yeah, and sometimes I think I'm getting a little bit of arthritis in my thumb, but I'm like, oh well, it could be worse. So
Yep. That's my reference point is always like I could be working in a coal mine,
that's
and
right. Black lung,
this
yeah,
is
could be getting
yeah.
black lung.
Oh, well, actually, you work with graphite. I was gonna say if you work with charcoal enough, you can get that anyways. Um,
Yeah,
it's but it's one of those things where like I feel like of a certain generation, like 20-year-olds are probably not feeling it in the same way, but
right.
as you get older, this it does add a little wear and tear to
Yeah,
your
I've been
joints.
lucky. I've been lucky. I haven't gotten carpal tunnel. I have more students that have carpal tunnel, and they're like in their 20s, and I'm like, oh, girl, you need to like do some stretches and go get that. What do they kind of like ream the hole out where the nerves pass through, and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, do it this summer so that you can enjoy school. Otherwise, it's going to
Now,
be rough.
when you say it, do you say it like "girl" or do you
Yeah,
say
I should. Well, I should. Although I think I'd get a lot of side glances, and I'd end up on TikTok somehow.
yeah?
So,
Did you see Mr. Thornock said? Do they wait? Your students call you? Do they call you professor?
if they can't remember my name, they do. And I always am like, don't call me Professor Thornock, because
Yeah.
like in my head, I'm 27. I'm your age,
Yep. Yep.
and they're looking at me with my white beard and going like, okay, whatever,
Yeah. Whatever, oldie.
yeah, whatever, grandpa. And I'm like, no, look, I'm still cool. I know the hip bands you guys are listening to.
I'm into the hip and the hop that you're all.
That's
Yes.
right.
Um,
And they just, look, 6'7", 6'7", and they're like, oh, don't say that. I'm like,
I did.
oh, okay, I
I
ruined it.
I did have a student call me professor one time, and I immediately was like, no, you're not allowed to call me that. That's yucky. It's gross. It's inappropriate in this classroom. And it's funny because like I don't know how many students do you have in a class.
Uh, Upward, I usually get between 15 and 18 to 20. So
Yeah, so it's in the same basic ballpark. I was going to say
yeah,
we have in that same range,
And so when you mentioned the idea of like they may not remember your name, I'm like, whoa, are you in one of those ones where it's like 40 kids in a class kind of situation?
Yeah,
That's the
no.
that's the SCAD method. That's the what I hear about
Oh,
SCAD.
really?
They just have a lot of kids in those classes, and I don't understand it, but
Oh, I got recruited to teach there, and then I remember somebody telling me don't do it. And
yeah,
I don't know about what goes on there, but people are like, they did not speak highly. I don't know if it's true. And I would never cast aspersions, but people were like, and you don't, there's like, you might not have job security. And I was like, oh,
yeah.
to
There's
move.
there's a lot of
Move to
turnover.
Savannah. Yeah, move to
Yeah,
Savannah and then be out a job within,
yeah.
a year would kind of be rough.
There's a lot of great people that come out of that school. There's a lot of great teachers that are at that school, but I have heard that there is a lot of turnover on faculty over
Yeah.
time, and yeah, it's just not the longevity aspect. Um,
Yeah.
really
I had a
hold.
friend who went and taught in there. Is it like in Asia somewhere? I don't know if it was like Taiwan or Hong Kong, at their campus there. He had to move himself there. I mean, it was, and then when he got let go, he's like, oh, I'm abroad. Like now I've got to get home,
Yeah,
like, and it was, to he had a really negative experience. I think he liked teaching there, and I think he liked like the culture and the access to like really interesting things. And he was a single guy, so maybe he didn't have the worry of like dragging somebody else there with him. But I think it was also he was really sour about how he got let go. So
yeah, yep. No, I get it. I get it. I mean, that's the challenge with a lot of schools at this point,
yeah.
anyways, whether it's
Yep.
there or not. But um, how do we? I don't even. Do you know that they have an equestrian program?
Oh, that's interesting.
An equestrian care program. It's not.
Yeah.
It's
But they're not
it's
an ag school. They're not like an agriculture school like
no. It's some
Texas A&M or
holdover
something.
of like the person who owned or who bought it originally or something like that. And so you can go there and get like design and visual development degree and whatnot and equestrian care.
Oh,
Yeah.
huh.
Yep. Now you know. Maybe
That's
go look on
really
their website
random.
and you'll see it. And it's a weird
Well,
thing that's there, but it's
their
just a whole.
facilities are kind of amazing,
Oh
and
yeah.
and I did, somebody told me, well, that's kind of what it's about, is the real estate. you know oh, that's interesting, because it's like prime real estate right in the heart of beautiful Savannah. And
Yep.
so that was, you know but it
What
was kind of a money-making gig, so
what's the
which
school
everything is. But
you teach at now? It's UT something.
yeah, it's UVU,
Oh,
Chippewa
UVU.
Valley University. Yeah, it's infamous now because of the Charlie Kirk shooting, which
Oh,
happened
that's
on
right.
campus. Yeah, that happened this
Wow.
semester. That was fun. And it's the largest public university in the state of Utah. We are also the newest, but we have like 48,000 students. It's huge, and it's an open enrollment university, so it's like a community college.
Yeah.
You could have done poorly in high school, but you can still enter. You don't have to have ACT or SAT scores. They serve like 2-year degrees. You can get associate's degrees there, as well as like 4-year degrees. So they have like programs in automotive tech, or you can learn how to fly planes, or you can become an EMT, or a dental hygienist still. But you can also, get a degree in philosophy, or,
Yeah.
Russian or whatever. So they have this kind of dual mission,
Hmm.
which I think is the reason why we have so many dang students. I mean, my department, we're flooded with students. We've got too many. We have more than we can handle, actually. It's kind of becoming a problem.
How
But
many how many students are in the program?
That's a good question. Off the top of my head, I probably couldn't give you a number, but I do know that this semester I had to because we've got students now that are in this kind of like roadblock where they can't apply for the program, like the BFA, which is after their second year. They're running into problems where they can't register for classes. So we had to open, and this is unusual for a program that we probably graduate anywhere from 12 to 20 students a year just in the illustration department. And then we have entertainment design, which is also doing about equal numbers.
Yeah.
Um, but I had to open like 3 sections of figure drawing one classes, which is unheard of. Um, and we don't have the facilities. We're kind of, we're like, I think the seventh largest um, department on campus. But we don't have the resources of the seventh largest.
Yeah.
So it's a little challenging. Art departments are not the engineering school. You know what I mean, or
Yep.
computer
Yep.
science. Those guys get the money, and for good reason. I mean, the nursing school, you're going to leave and have a job. But if you're
And
an illustrator, like how do I justify asking for $15 million for a building?
yeah, the engineering students come back and have the money to buy
Yeah.
buildings, and yeah,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
no, it sounds like the school I teach at is only about 250 students
Oh wow.
total, and the illustration program itself is probably, we graduate probably about 15 to 20
Yeah.
or somewhere in that range. Although it's right now it's going to be less in the next few years just because of enrollment issues,
Mm.
but it sounds like we're not too far off.
No, and
But
and we, I don't know if you, I don't know what your admissions is like, but one of the challenges with like an open admission policy is that any student can come take the illustration classes at the beginning, and we haven't winnowed them off early enough. I hope none of my students are watching because now we'll know. Now they'll know all sorts of great stuff. But what that leads to is like, oh, now they can't, they have to take, these 6 classes or 8 classes before they can apply, and they fill up. And and then when I'm in the class, I'm realizing that probably 60% of the class should not be there. They should be in a remedial drawing class, like a drawing for non-majors, because they're just not like it sounds good to be an illustrator, but they're
they're just not
not
prepared.
they're not prepared, and but they're taking up space, and so it's like ugh. So we're going through the growing pains. We are a fairly new university, like probably within the last 15 years. We became a 4-year institution. So we went from community college or state college to community college to now full-blown university that now offers graduate degrees. And so that just comes with growing pains. It's
Yep.
like you gotta change the way you look at things.
Hey, growing pains are better than shrinking pains,
That
and
is true.
that's where a lot of our schools are, including our school. So, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, my wife says that's so different from my school. That
Yeah.
I can name every single student basically in the program and whatnot, but
That gives you some flexibility and kind of some awesomeness. I am like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like how many kids? Like we do this application process, and I'm just looking at the work on, oh my gosh, how many portfolios do I have to review? It's
uh,
like yikes! Just the administrative stuff is crazy.
will you have to review the portfolios for getting into the program altogether?
No, so we have not put in any barriers to entry until their second, like the end of their second
Oh,
year.
okay.
And that's a mistake. That's our big mistake. So
Gotcha. No, yeah, I don't have to do any of I do portfolio stuff, but I don't have to do that.
yeah,
That's a choice aspect at the school.
yeah,
But this is, again, we got into talking shop. People are going,
yeah,
whoa, this is boring. Um,
yeah.
but that being said, so one of the, I know that you have 3 books, I think, is it 3 or you said 4?
Yeah.
Coming out.
I've got one with Neil Porter books coming out in August. And at Holiday House in Neil Porter. It's called The Thing About Pie, written by Amy Hest, who's wrote this really beautiful story about a little boy who bakes a pie and has an adventure getting across town to meet up with his grandfather at the park. And that was a really fun one. And then the book I'm currently working on is called Can Whales See the Stars? And it's by Bruce Balin. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And that's with Ann Schwartz Books and Random House. That will, final art, I think, is this summer. So that will come out summer 27. And then Random House, Ann Kelly over at Random House, we signed to do a book called The Attic Dragon, which is kind of an amazing story. And I'm super excited. But that's also next year. This next year is going to be crazy, but that's due fall of 27. So, and then we have something I can't announce yet until I see that it's up on Publishers Weekly or whatever. So,
Ooh. How
yeah.
I forget, and my wife was asking me when a book gets put on Publishers Week. I always find out after the fact.
Yeah.
But
I know. Well, and the one that I can't announce because they were like they were waiting on something, and then we went to holiday, and I just haven't followed up and said, can we
talk about
announce
it.
this yet? Yeah, or not? So I'm just that'll probably be something I have to reach out to Lori about this week.
Yeah, waiting for clearance.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, I forget like how long it takes for that kind of stuff to
Yeah.
pop up, because I feel like you're almost always done with the book when it shows up on that list.
Well, and what's crazy for me getting into this business is, when I was doing like editorial stuff, it was like I was getting it done, and then in 2 months or 3 months it was printed, and it was like quick. And now it's like, people are like, oh, Sleeping Bear and your Brave Old Blue, and I'm like, yeah, let's see, I did that, it was done 2 years ago. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my gosh, I have to get
Yeah.
used to this timeline. It's really strange.
It's yeah, the speed, because I came from editorial as well, and like the speed that things go is so slow. And the I was a very fast editorial person. I was one of those people
That's
who
good.
I would get it out the door like same day sometimes, if not like next day kind of situation, which is good, but it also, then switching to this, it became a huge problem because I was working way too fast, and I was making edits too fast, and caused all sorts of like challenges of, oh, you're not taking the time to know what you need to do, and you're just replicating. And
Yeah, and that's so funny because I remember like, and when you're editorial, I don't know if you did this, but like I would get a job. There were only a couple of jobs I turned down. One was like Playboy magazine, where I was like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, well, that's you know, if you get, a project from Playboy, like that's a big deal as an illustrator, and that's where Brad Holland cut his teeth and all of this.
yeah,
But I'm like, I've got daughters, and I don't know how I feel about
yeah,
it. But anytime I got a job, I was like, I'll take it. I'll take it. Yes. Oh, it's for this, university. I'll take it. Yes, I'll do it. Anything I could get. And when I first got signed up with Lori, we had another book that we did not take, actually, also from Sleeping Bear. And we got sent the manuscript, and I read it, and I'm like, within an hour, I'm like emailing back saying, let's take it. And she's like, okay, Chris, like I want you to think about this. She's like, take the weekend,
yeah.
read it a couple of times.
Don't get
And I'm thinking like editorial, it's like, no, we gotta go.
yeah. If I don't take it now, someone else is going to take it. And then,
Yeah.
I mean, there were times where like my art agent, I'd be in class and they'd keep buzzing me, and finally I'd pick up and they go like, they're going to give the job to someone else. Do you want it or not? And
Yeah.
like, at that time it's, yeah, I guess so. And then all they needed was the okay, so they could move forward with like quoting a price or whatever. But
Right,
um,
right.
it's the speed at which it moves is very, very different.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it was great because Lori is like, well, now I'm here to build your career. You got to think about the kind of books you want. You want to make sure that you're gonna have the energy to do it. Like just a whole bunch of things. Does this fit with the kind of work that you make? Like just things I'd never thought about before. Where in editorial, until you get to a certain level, you're taking everything.
yes.
And it was a good learning experience. And so now, when we get it, I'm starting to go, oh yeah, I need to, and she's really great because, this is where, I advocate for agents. If you get a good agent, they help you understand not just, you know, how to get your contract taken care of and to follow up on your payments and everything, but they're like out to build your career,
Yep.
and they want you to like think bigger than you might be thinking yourself. At least that's been my experience, and it's been great. And Lori's kind of an amazing agent. She's been awesome for me. So
How long have you been with Lori?
I want to say, has it been 2 years, 2.5 years?
Okay. I tried to
Yeah.
tag Lori in some of this stuff, but she won't let. She doesn't let people tag her. So,
Ah, probably steel. You could probably tag
oh,
Steelworks.
I did. I did Steelworks, yes, but
Okay, okay.
she cut off everything else. She doesn't want to be seen.
Yeah, her personal stuff. Yeah, that might be the case.
No, that's
I can
fine.
see
I get
that.
it. I get it. All the promotion she could have done for this, out the window. She missed it. I'm
She's
just
probably
saying, when
taking
you
a
talk to her next, you
much,
say you missed an
yeah,
opportunity.
she's probably taking a much needed rest.
Yeah.
Her agency is growing. I think she's now got another agent involved, and she's got, yeah, kind of
Was it
amazing.
just her solo before?
It was, yeah. She was with Red Fox Literary,
Oh, that's
but
right. Okay. I was like, why
but
do
I
I know
think,
her name? And that's it right there.
yeah. And what's crazy though is, like how well connected she is. I'm always surprised. Like she's like, oh, and I know so and so at Pippin, and I know so and so at, and I'm just like, oh, interesting. And I think she managed the like graduate writing program at Vermont College, I think, or something. I don't know everything about her history. I think she was a school librarian, so she's very much on the reader side, and understanding that whole thing. She's very knowledgeable. I mean, I would get, a kind of a funny story. My family, we go on a little vacation not too far at a lake that's up in Idaho, Utah-Idaho border, and we're at the beach, and I pick up my phone and I see that she's like tried to call me like 4 times, and I'm like, what the heck? And so I call her back, and she's like, hey, Neil Porter has just reached out. And I'm like, I don't know who Neil Porter is, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm a newbie, and
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And she's like, Chris, like, I'm gonna send you this manuscript, but this is somebody we don't want to leave waiting. I know you're on vacation. I hate to do this, and then she's like, sits down and explains to me who Neil Porter is, and I'm like, oh. Well, this is, I'm like, wow, okay, yeah, absolutely. And so I spent, 2 days reading the manuscript over and over and thinking about it. And then, just texted her back and forth. And I said, yeah, this sounds great. Like lucky me, again,
Yeah.
this will be really fun to do.
No, Neil Porter. There's some names you got to learn. There's
I
a.
know. And he just retired.
This is but this is the thing of like, the idea of why was it Giuseppe that said like you got to get a literary agent is
Yeah, yeah.
art agents don't know all these names. Like I have an art agent and a literary agent, but I can guarantee that my
Hmm.
art agents don't know everybody in this industry like my literary agent does.
Right. Well,
And
when and the kind of you kind of are getting a specialized agent. You know, when I was at Shannon Associates, who I'd been there for like 5 years, I think, um, they were great, and I got lots of work. I had a really good relationship with two or three other agents that there, and so but at some point I was like, hey, I'd like to explore kid lit a little bit more. And they have some, I think they have Charles Santoso
Mm-hmm.
on their roster. And I just loved his work. And I was like, okay, so they do kid lit, and they do a lot of like middle grade, like reader novel covers. They have a lot of illustrators
Yep.
that do that kind of stuff. So I'm thinking, awesome. But they didn't have the time to help me. Like it just didn't work out. And it was sort of like I would say, hey, can you help me sort of like what's working? I've made 6 new pieces. What's working and what's not? Is this, and I just wasn't getting any feedback. And I thought, and I don't blame them for it,
No, it's just not their
because
specialty.
it's not their specialty. And so I did that thing with Giuseppe, and he was like, okay, Chris, let me give you, some advice. And that was like gold. And so I did this, crazy thing. I just, I emailed Shannon Associates, and I was just like, yeah, I don't think this is working anymore. Dang it, unless you can help me with this. And they were like, that's fine. We'll see ya. And I was like, whoa, that was quick. I mean, I was like, okay, I guess I'm
You're
done.
not going to fight for me a little? There's a
Yeah, and they were nice. They were nice. They were like, they have kind of a non-compete in your contract, so that when you leave, like you can't get another agent for like 6 months or whatever it was. And they were nice. They said, we won't hold you to this, like, and so they were really gracious, and I left. And then I couldn't get an agent. Like I was calling in favors, saying, hey, do you think I could I name drop you? I
Yep.
was
Yeah.
contacting people at Writer's House. I was contacting people at T2. Like just everybody I could think of, I went through, and just didn't get anything, until happenstance, Lori saw the work at the right time, and it was great. And we've just been moving ever since. So really grateful.
Before I forget, I wanted to go back a second to the books. Are you writing at all?
I have started, Lori's been really great. She's like, Chris, you need to write. She's like, you can tell stories with pictures, so that means you can probably tell stories. And I did not take college level English classes when I was a student. I don't know. I think I took AP English that got me out of my like writing responsibility at the time when I was in college. So I'm a bad writer. Like I'm like, oh, I'm changing tense everywhere, or oh, I'm doing this. But I've got 3 or 4 stories that are we've worked. Lori's great. I get them to a point, and then I send them to her, and then she gives me a really good um, sort of once over, and then I sit on it for another 6 months, because I'm so busy with the books that I just don't
Yeah.
I don't have time to. It's like I have to like figure out where to spend the time. But I do have a couple of stories, and one that we're pretty close, and another one that maybe in a year we'll be ready. I don't unless I really am productive this summer. I think I could get it done.
But you're moving towards that altogether.
Yeah. I think it's good. I mean, I know that you've talked about it, and when I've listened to your interviews with some of the people you've brought on, I think it makes sense. I think it's kind of a dream project if you can sit down and completely envision it, from the images to the words.
Yeah.
And so I think that would be really fun. And I mean, and just from the kind of gross, part of it, like, wouldn't it be nice to get both the both advances,
Yeah.
the art and writing advance, you know,
Sadly, they only give you one advance. It's a little bigger.
just a little bigger. Yeah.
You don't
So
get
wouldn't
two of
that
the
be
same
nice?
size. Um,
Yeah.
no, it's like I need to get back into writing. I need to. There's a lot of things that I think I understand why agents want people to write.
Hmm.
Um, but I also know that like it's the same thing for me. Like when I'm in the middle of a book or I'm in the middle of a project, it's hard to sit down and just say like, let me put time into writing. And I know it's not. It's an excuse. Honestly, it really is an excuse of just like, oh, I don't have time for that when I really should be able to find the time.
Well, yeah, I've been thinking a lot about like what are my New Year's, like what are the things I want to work on this year, not
Yeah.
necessarily like achieve, and I just do think that like I waste a lot of time, and I could probably make better use of my time. And even if I just sat down, like it doesn't even have to be like these grand things, but if I just sat down and said, okay, I'm going to set a timer, I'll do the little Bob Shay, I'll I'll compartmentalize my day and just sit down and say, okay, for 20 minutes, today I'm just going to work on this. And if I did that, once a week, 52 weeks times 20 minutes, like all of a sudden I've got a lot of writing done.
Yeah. It's I my goal this next semester is really just like I've been working on projects for so long on various things that like it's hard to find time, especially with teaching and other
Hmm.
odds and ends, that like my goal is to work on some writing going forward. In fact, the break that I'm on right now, I'm supposed to be writing, but I haven't sat down to do it. But I will when like I'm on the trip. I'm gonna probably do some writing, even on my iPhone. Uh,
Hmm.
like that may be enough. I don't think I need to do a ton, but
Yeah.
it's hard. It's a hard practice, especially if you didn't grow up doing it. Like you said,
Yeah. You
do a
got to
lot
do
of
a lot of reading. You got to do a lot of reading to do a lot of writing, is what I'm learning.
yeah.
I think
I love
there,
a lot of reading. That is true. I need to do more of um, reading outside of just kidlit
yeah.
and not just looking at pictures.
Yep. No, that is so true. I've spent probably $100 in the last 3 months on books that I know, like, okay, now that they're purchased, it's time to sit down and read these and have different topics. And I think that's one thing I will say that, like, weirdly enough, like walking my dogs, I always get like great ideas when I'm walking my dogs, and then just it allows me to like, okay, I can mention these. I can, take a little voice memo or something for
Yep.
myself. And then when I sit down, it's not like, okay, what was I going to write about? Or, I've started building a process. And I think it's almost like if you can build a process, then it doesn't, like the rest of it doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not about like I've got to write this book this month. Instead, if I just say, I can, like, the little bites of elephant, if I just like I work for an hour on this today and on Friday, how much can I get done? And just like building a system, then I just sort of follow the system, and I'm bound to get something, even if it's
Great.
bad.
Yeah. That's the thing that I have lots of ideas. I'm an idea
Yeah.
person. I
Yeah.
when I'm doing the mentorships with people online, they'll come in with an idea for like a book that clearly needs to be edited and changed and things of the sort. And I'm very good at being like, okay, here's what you got to do. You change this, you move this around here, blah, 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 blah. And then you got to add this little bit and look at that. Boom. And
Mm-hmm.
the problem is I don't know how to do it for myself as easily. It's like a doctor
Yeah.
tried for themselves. It's that same setup for me. And so does your wife help with any of the like
No. She's like the best cheerleader, and they went to a bookstore, one of the local indie bookstores, and saw my book, and they were really cute to talk to the owner, and oh, my husband did this. Like, she's she's more on that end. I have some friends, like for a while when I was first getting started and sort of trying to marry more sort of story with picture. I had two friends who were writers, and we did this kind of like weird, like really low commitment. It wasn't like a book club, but it was like I would do a drawing and then send it to them, email it to them or text it to them,
Yeah.
and then they would write like a one-page short story based on the picture that I sent. And at first, I had this like wacky idea. I was like, this would be kind of a fun art show where, we could display the stories and the pictures together, and it would be low key. Like, I don't want them to spend a ton of time because they had day jobs and all sorts of stuff. But it was such a like interesting motivator for me to see how they worked and learned how they do it, so that now I could probably send them stuff and say, hey, what are your thoughts on this? And they were really helpful that way. But because they're not in Kidlit's like really particular. It's like, oh, you're writing for children and you've got, pacing is different and word count is really, you got to watch word count and
Yeah.
don't describe everything. Like, stop
Yep.
describing everything. And I just like that has been, the learning curve that Lori represents. What is her name? Is it Mary Whitford? She's written a book on how to write children's books. I mean, she's one of the kind of
Like go
amazing,
to. Yeah.
yeah, books. And she was like, you need to buy this book, Chris, and you need to read it. And then I've been like, that's what I do is I buy like Martin Salisbury's books, like children's
I need to
picture
get some
books.
Salisbury. That's
Yeah.
he always has um such great book. I forget, he commented on something of mine and my wife was immediately like, do you see Martin Salisbury commented on your stuff? And I was like, oh, like,
Yeah. No,
it's
like
a
I have
name.
thought about doing they have like a summer intensive that you can go and like do picture books. It's sort of like the Milkwood
Milkwood.
thing,
Yeah.
but it's in England. And I was like, that'd be kind of cool because they have such a different way of looking at art. That I like you. I'm like you. I'm like the books that I really love are like Enchanted Lions books. Like
Mm.
they're always the weirdest. Like, do you know? Is it Expelex? Who's the illustrator that did The Magicians? Have you seen this book?
Oh,
This
Bulblex?
Blex.
Black
Yeah,
Bulblex,
or
yeah.
is that? Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the craziest children's book. And I'm like, who would publish a book that has like it's got like folded back pages and it's on like almost like newsprint and it looks like it was lino cut. And I'm like, oh, Enchanted Lion. Oh, okay. I
Here's
will be buying more of your books.
there are a bunch of books. I'm gonna go look at to see if I can find stuff in a stack here real quick. Because Enchanted Lion, I bought a bunch of Enchanted Lion stuff um, for my wife for gifts. But we've been buying weirder and weirder books as we go on. I'm trying to find.
Yeah. Do you have like anything by Joo Hee Yoon? Like
Yes.
the Beastly verse book? Oh my gosh. Like I'm now I've stopped drawing. I'm just like looking at this. This is where I'm jealous. Like I look at her work and I'm like, I'm so fiddly and rendery and like the freedom of doing a book like this. I don't know. I couldn't pull it off, but
Joo Hee
it
Yoon
was
does.
she has a Nutcracker book that's just amazing.
Yeah. Well, she did even. Was she the one that did the Kama Sutra?
I don't know.
Or no, that was that may have been Victor Nagai who did that
You know
one.
who did you know who did that one? It's the geriatric Kama Sutra and it's Heinrich Drescher, who who I met when I was a student. He came to Art Center and I couldn't believe like he was a guy that didn't go to art school and he had he talked about sketchbooks in really crazy ways, but he had taken the Pat the Bunny books and he did a riff on Pat the Bunny, and they're called Pat the Beasties. And it's like, those board books that, that are
Yeah.
the touch and feel books, except it was like, the beast takes his boot off and you scratch and sniff the boot and it smells like fish, or he has a booger in his nose and you pull on it. It's like one of
Oh,
those little gummies that you hit the window with, and they stick. And it had like fur, but it was like matted green fake fur. I mean, it was so clever. And I was like, oh my gosh,
there's
this is the kind of work I want to do.
there's a book. Now, this isn't necessarily the book that that you or I are probably going to get asked to do. Probably more me than you. That I have here. That's about. I forget where we found it, but it was my wife found it, and it's a book about a finger that sets up a house inside a nose.
Oh my gosh, that's
And so it's
awesome.
like about picking your nose and whatnot. So I pulled out this book. This is my favorite book of the year, and it came out years ago, but it's my favorite one that I got this year, and it's been put out. Can you see your screen at all?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm
Yeah.
seeing it.
So the
Oh my
expedition,
gosh.
and it's Tuvalisa Rangstrom and Clara Bartleson. And it's this is the publisher that you should look into, because if you like weird stuff, they do some really cool weird stuff. Is
What is
Transit.
it?
Transit?
Transit?
Yeah. They do a lot of translated stuff. But this book is just bonkers. Uh,
Oh
like
my
it's about
gosh.
traveling through the body. So like they're going through the stomach and into the small intestines. And there's a doctor that's this weird little baby that is in this. I don't even know how to describe like what's going on in half of these scenes.
Yeah.
And like it's just wild and different. The train to the lungs, and here they are at the lungs,
Oh,
camping in
that's
the lungs,
amazing.
and like they're all beautiful pieces. Like
Yeah.
they're gorgeous, but then on top of that, it's this just weird story about traveling through the body, and then it has these great in papers, and like it's just
Whoa.
it's lovely. So if you can get your hands on it, and then the other one
Yeah.
that my wife and I like are at the point where we want to buy picture books all the time
Uh-huh.
for each other,
Uh-huh.
but we're trying to be careful that we don't buy the same ones for each other, because we do have a couple. Like there was this Christmas where we both bought each other two of the same books,
Oh, that's awesome.
two pairs of each, and I forget what they were. I think it was Doug Salati's Hot Dog
Oh,
book
that's a great book.
or
Yep.
whatever, and then also it was 20 Questions with Mac Barnett and Christian Robinson, I think.
Oh,
Anyway,
that's good.
so we're trying to be careful not to do that, and so we've held off. But there's a publisher that I want to get some stuff through. That's what is their name? They are oh no, I gotta draw a blank on this.
Okay, we've been drawing for a while, so
No, it's really getting me. I should know this. Lauren, do you remember the name of that publisher that I was looking at that does Latin American? Oh, I'll have to look it up afterwards. But they have amazing books too, and it's just like, what? Yeah, the one that's the Croco. My wife's gonna look it up. But they have like beautiful, beautiful books. And I just started, instead of going to like bookstores and going, hey, I wonder what they have
yeah.
that I like. Now I'm going to publishers and going, okay, what is this publisher putting out,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
how can I get that
Well,
introduced into my catalog of?
some of the books that I've recently got that I just love. Have you seen, this is a Viking book. It's The Lost House. It's a hide and seek book by B.B. Cronin.
It sounds familiar.
And it is like I don't know what this must be Spot. I don't know. I can't figure out
Oh,
like,
it's huge, isn't it? It's a big book.
yeah. And
Yeah,
it's got like,
here.
like really hot pink. Like there's this double page spread where you're supposed to find like grandpa's shoes
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
this.
yeah.
That one is amazing. I love
Yes, Lauren.
Julia Sarda, her
Yep.
work. Like, and then have you seen? This is an older book, I think. This is Mitsumasa Ano, and it's Ano's Journey. And I think it's a wordless picture book. And I'm like getting into wordless now.
The uh the I think we tried to get Julia Sarda on at one point. I forget what happened, but
Oh, that
um,
looks amazing.
we only have like 10 minutes left anyway. So here I'm
Yep. Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
go
yeah, yeah.
for the Lost House folks that don't know what that book
Oh,
is.
yeah.
This is
Yeah, yeah.
I have it here on hand, and
That's awesome.
it's like the color spot color sort of aspect of it is like it's almost like they did Pantone printing for the whole thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is
And
crazy.
it's like when you get into this, like this has to be spot or like fifth color printing or something that's going on with these. But
So expensive.
the other one that you might like that we got years ago that my cat chewed. Do you know who Decour is?
No.
He's I want to say, is he Brazilian? Does this say anywhere? It might say somewhere in here. No, Argentina is
Okay.
or he's from. No, I guess. Whoa, no. Yeah, something of the sort. But his stuff is this beautiful, um, like I don't even know how to. It's the weirdest stuff, and it's a lot of it's
That's
been
cool.
translated, but it's got some comics, it's got some other weird sections in it, but his stuff is amazing
And
altogether. And
what's
so,
his
like
name? What's his name again?
Decur, Decur,
Oh, okay. Yep.
and this is
All
this
right, I'll
big
look it up.
tome that I think this is an Enchanted Lion book as well.
Of course, their
Yeah.
books are so cool.
My wife
Well,
looked up the publisher that I want to look into, which is Tapioca Press.
Tapioca Press. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that like if you get a chance, go. And they're all Latin American or Latinx uh, authors and illustrators, and
Cool.
they have some amazing stuff. But that's my go-to now. I'm done basically with my piece. I was
Yeah,
gonna,
me too. Me
uh,
too. I'm
I'll
done.
put it on screen real quick for everybody, and then we can do a little sign off. But I will try to share if I can some other books and stuff that like I'm buying books that are just like you said are art pieces more now
Hmm.
that or just let me go out and buy what's popular. Like the
Yeah.
bestseller
Yeah.
list is fun, but the translated by the way that I've been describing it is if someone has an umlaut or an accent mark over their name,
It's
then
probably good.
I'm all in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so here I will pause it on this so people can see what I made. Uh, here's the sketch. There's the finish. It's
Yeah.
relatively close.
Same. My drawing.
It looks so good.
And then scanned and or just photographed. It was quick and dirty. Photographed it with the iPad and colored. So
I
it was fun.
if you post, I'm gonna switch back to my view here. If you end up posting the stuff, tag me in it because I really want to see sort of the thing at the end how it came out.
Yeah.
But this has been lovely, and I know
Yeah. This was great. We
we've
talked.
been.
I had talked your ear off. So
Yeah, no. This is great. You made the you get a special trophy when we do the yearly roundup next year. You get a trophy that says that you made it all the way through till the end,
yes.
which not
Yes.
everybody gets one of those.
It's a marathon. Okay, I'm
I
feeling it. I've got to find that massager.
I probably should do it. We at one point we looked at getting beanies that will say like a like a mustard beanie that says Gavin Doodle or like Gavin Dude on it because you're officially a Gavin Dude.
That's awesome.
And it's not
Yes.
super expensive to get embroidered. I mean, it's expensive, but to do something of that sort, it was like something that someone could have afterwards that we
Yeah.
send them if they last the full 4 hours, they get
Oh
one.
my gosh.
But,
Yeah. It's. I was really honored that you asked me. This was really, really fun. After
yeah,
watching so
my
many great illustrators and your discussions with them and watching people make work, I think is really fun. So.
my wife said this to me many, many times, but she said that she was waiting for you to make a picture book so we could have
Oh,
you. And like obviously you made
we
one.
finally did it. Yeah.
Yeah,
It took a
and
while.
it well no, it took a while, but you're
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
you have enough in the lineup now that it's not even an issue.
No.
But
No.
she was like, "When's it gonna happen? When's it gonna happen?" Because she's been and I should not just her, me too, but she's been. She told me that the other day. I'm like, I remember thinking at one point, like, when is Chris gonna make a book so we can get?
Well, I should give her high fives.
Yes,
Give you high fives. Learn through the screen there.
She
Um,
gave you the trophy already. You can see it. It's above you.
nice. There it is.
Yeah.
I'm a Gavin dude. I am a Gavin dude.
But this has been lovely. I'm glad that you're on. I'm glad that you didn't get lost in all the school talk.
No, I know. I thought it was great. You know, yeah, I thought it was great. It's always good to hear. You know, we did shop talk, and I hope it didn't bore everybody. But I think you know, I thought it was really good stuff.
It
So
didn't bore
yeah,
people like last week when I was. I don't know if you watched last week's. Not last
I
week, the week
missed
before.
2 weeks ago.
When the guest hopped off and I started doing a rundown of 90 Day Fiance. For people who are listening, that's when the numbers dropped from like it was like
Oh, that's
like
so
it starts
funny.
out at like 20, 30 people watching or whatever, and then it dropped down to like 4, and 2 of
Yeah,
them are my family watching. And so
that's
it was teetering on that level of like no one was really listening. No,
that's so
we
funny.
had guests all or folks listening all night. This has been lovely. I
Thank
hope
you.
you have a lovely 2026. And if you
Thanks, you
get out
too.
to any events out this way, or if I come that way, I'm gonna give you a holler.
Absolutely.
We
Let's keep
will.
in
I will
touch for
treat you to.
sure.
I'll treat you to a big soda.
That's right. That's right. We'll go. No, if you're coming here, I treat you to a
Yeah, to
big
swig.
soda.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll go to Swig so that you can have the full
I don't.
experience.
I don't know about like getting pineapple. Is pineapple chunks in the soda?
It's pureed, so it's just kind of, you know, they'll do it with raspberries and other stuff. So yeah, it's sort of like fruit in the bottom of your drink. Have you ever had boba tea where you get the
Not really,
tapioca
but yeah,
balls?
yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, you get over it. Yeah, it's
I don't
okay.
want soda with pulp. That's
That's right. That's what it is. It's soda with pulp.
yeah. So, anyways, this has been
All right.
lovely. Go get some rest, and I will be in
Absolutely.
touch. All
Hey, ciao. See
right.
ya.
Bye.
Bye bye.
All right, real quick before everybody tunes out. Next week we have Game and Doodle. Game and Doodle is, for those who don't know, it's drawing games. My wife hosts it, so she comes down here and she sits in front of the camera with us and throws prompts at us. It's me. So the next week it's going to be me involved, Luke Flowers, Ruth Chan, and Kate Cosgrove. So there's going to be 4 of us on screen. I don't know what the games are. No one knows what the games are. No one knows what's, like, it's all secret. So my wife has the stuff. She sent envelopes to them that have all the prompts in them that they're not allowed to open until they're told during the game show. I have no idea. There's something around here in my house that tells me what I'm doing, but I don't know where it is. So that's going to be next Thursday at 6 p.m. Here on Instagram, or if you're watching later, potentially on YouTube. That's it for the night, everybody. You all have a lovely evening. I will see you next week. Bye.